Hajime was a weakling who was left in a labyrinth to die alone. After eating monsters and absorbing their abilities, he becomes overpowered and forms a group of freaky girls to seek revenge on his betrayers. However, he ends up getting distracted with his new busty teammates due to too many plots and decides to clap them instead. But before all this, Hajime suddenly awakens inside a dark cave within the Great Orcus Labyrinth, a dangerous dungeon filled with terrifying monsters. He's confused and shaken, unable to understand whether he's alive or dead, and starts looking for a way to escape the dungeon. While exploring, he suddenly witnesses a rabbit-like monster being attacked by wolf creatures. But instead of running, the rabbit brutally unalives both wolves with powerful and fast attacks. This terrifies Hajime even more. But then a massive predator appears out of nowhere, tears off the rabbit's head, and devours it like a cat playing with its prey. Horrified, Hajime turns to run, but the huge monster slices off one of his arms. The monster then starts eating his severed limb while trying to move forward for more. In that moment of desperation, Hajime uses his special ability called Transmute, which lets him reshape objects and manages to escape temporarily. He runs through the tunnels and eventually collapses from blood loss and faints. When Hajime regains consciousness, he finds himself next to a glowing sacred crystal. It's a mythical mana stone that he had read about before. When mana becomes saturated, it drips down from the stone in liquid form, and this holy water can heal any injury. Hajime uses the liquid to stop his bleeding and begins recovering from his injuries. While resting, he starts thinking that there's no way a sissy like him can defeat such a huge and powerful monster. He feels helpless and questions why this is happening to him. Memories flood his mind, showing scenes from earlier. Hajime and his classmates had entered the Great Orcus Labyrinth together with the intention of gaining power and completing a mission. During one battle, a classmate named Amanogawa saved Hajime from danger and told him to work harder. Later on, their group found some rare glowing crystals high above them, and one girl pointed out that they were knowledge crystals, extremely rare and difficult to find. A boy then reached out to touch a crystal despite warnings not to go alone. As soon as he made contact, a magical reaction triggered, and the entire group was teleported to a new location filled with monsters. The terrified group used a divine protection spell to shield themselves, but it soon wore off against the overwhelming enemy force. A selfless Hajime used his transmute ability to try and fend off the monsters while his classmates made their way across a bridge. However, one of his teammates deliberately attacked him from behind, causing him to fall off the collapsing bridge into the lower levels of the labyrinth. Hajime couldn't understand why his life was suddenly full of betrayal and pain. Karori, one of his classmates and a healer, had previously come to him asking to stay by his side and promising to protect him no matter what. She said she had a big dream and couldn't bear to lose him. But now, despite her words, even Karori couldn't save him. Hajime was left to die in the dark, confused and filled with rage. Still, he made a decision that he would survive and do anything it took to return home. To keep himself alive, Hajime cleverly traps two wolf monsters and begins eating their flesh raw. But soon after, he begins screaming in pain, and his body starts mutating. His hair turns white, his DNA starts changing, his strength rapidly increases, and he stops feeling pain altogether. When Hajime checks his status plate, he's shocked to find that his level has gone up, and he has gained new skills, including lightning magic and wolf-based attributes. With his transmutation ability, Hajime collects magical stones and ores to craft weapons. He builds a revolver-like gun and gives it an underwhelming name, Donner. He also creates blasting bullets using the stones and prepares himself for battle. Now stronger and more dangerous than before, Hajime tests his weapon by fighting another bunny monster. Using his new gun and lightning powers, he eliminates it with ease and eats it to absorb more abilities. Now that he's overpowered, Hajime goes to confront the monster that took his arm. He soon finds it and boldly declares that he will unalive it and eat it. The monster charges at him again, but Hajime easily dodges the attack and fires multiple bullets from Donner. One of them ends up slicing off the monster's arm, and Hajime eats it mid-battle like a barbarian. He then brutally electrocutes the monster before shooting it in the skull, eliminating it finally. Hajime has now become a powerful being who refuses to die, and his only goal is to eliminate everything in his way. Hajime then thinks of using his transmute ability to get out of this labyrinth, but suddenly remembers that there are 100 levels here, and he doesn't know what level he's on currently. While Hajime is busy surviving underground like a madman on drugs, his classmates are up in the royal palace trying to explain themselves to the king. They tell him how, while exploring the Great Orcus Labyrinth, they accidentally triggered a trap on the 20th level, which teleported them all the way to the 65th level. There, they came face to face with the behemoth, a creature so terrifying even the bravest of them would wet their pants. However, the annoyed king reminds them that they were summoned here to fight, not for a field trip. His advisor then reveals that the demons of this world have figured out how to control monsters, and humanity is hanging on by a thread. The students weren't just dropped into another world for fun. They were summoned by the prayers of the people, chosen to protect this kingdom from destruction. As all this is being explained, Shizuku, one of Hajime's teammates, starts drifting into her thoughts. She remembers how Kaori, her close friend and healer of the group, promised to fight by her side even though she wasn't built for combat. Just then, she notices one of her teammates, Hiyama, talking to himself rather nervously. She asks if he's alright, but the guy freaks out like he's seen a ghost and quickly bolts away. This strange incident makes Shizuku recall how Hiyama has always had issues with Hajime in the past. Shizuku then goes to her friend Kaori, who has finally woken up after 5 days of being unconscious. The first thing she does is ask about Hajime, and when she learns that he's still in the labyrinth, she breaks down in tears. Shizuku consoles her and promises to help her find Hajime one way or another. Deep below the surface, Hajime keeps pushing forward through the dungeon. He eventually comes across a massive gate that's sealed shut with strange locks. He tries to open it, but doing so triggers two nearby monsters who suddenly wake up and attack. Without wasting a second, Hajime shoots one straight in the eye and drops it immediately. The second one blocks his shots and tries to put up a fight, but Hajime stays calm and reloads his gun. He notices that the monster doesn't stray far from the gate, but Hajime uses a hypercharged attack and takes it out for good. After the fight, he searches their bodies and finds 3 glowing orbs. He inserts them into the mechanism on the gate, which finally opens. Inside, he finds a dark chamber filled with thick, strange magical energy. In the center of the room, a girl is sealed inside a block of stone. Hajime turns to leave, thinking it's not his concern, but she begins screaming for help. Hajime still doesn't want to help her, as he believes she's too dangerous. But when the girl claims that she had been betrayed too, he finally changes his mind. The girl then reveals that she's a vampire. Not just any vampire, but a powerful one who once tried to protect her people. But her strength made others fear her, and her own uncle and ministers turned on her. They tried to eliminate her but failed due to her healing ability, so they locked her here instead. Hajime carefully listens, and for the first time in a long while, he feels like he can trust someone again. He then uses all his strength and somehow breaks the seal, freeing the girl. She doesn't even have any clothes, but they still manage to put up a straight face as if everything's fine. Hajime tells her his name, and when he asks for hers, she says she doesn't want to be called by her old name anymore. Hajime thus gives her a new one, Yue. The girl excitedly hugs him with her sweaty body, but just then someone fires arrows at them, and Hajime injures himself to shield her. He quickly pulls out the magical water and pours it over his wounds while Yue removes the arrows from his back. They soon notice a massive crab monster standing right in front of the exit like it pays rent there. Realizing they must fight, he gives Yue his jacket, picks her up on his back, and turns to face the monster. Hajime starts firing, but the bullets barely leave a dent. The monster charges forward with brute force, and Hajime tries everything, even tossing a bomb under its feet, but nothing seems to slow it down. Just when it seems the monster's going to turn them into minced meat, Yue decides to step up. She slides down from Hajime's back and suddenly begins sucking his blood like it's her protein shake. Turns out, his blood is supercharged with mana, and she knows it's the fastest way to regain her strength. While Yue feeds, Hajime uses his transmute ability to stall the monster just long enough. Once she's finally ready, she fires a huge blue energy blast called Azure at the monster's head. The impact is solid, but the monster is still left standing, while Yue collapses from exhaustion. Hajime encourages her to try again and points at the same spot he hit earlier, thinking that a well-timed combo might finish it. Yue nods, though she warns him her next shot won't be as strong. Hajime then distracts the monster and gives Yue the signal to strike it with her Azure energy. As soon as she does so, Hajime climbs up the beast and blasts it at point-blank range, finally ending its pathetic life. Later, while eating the meat of the dead monster, Hajime casually tells Yue that vampires were believed to have gone extinct 300 years ago, which means she must be at least that old, but Yue just glares at him angrily, clearly not pleased with the reminder of her age. Hajime then asks if she knows where they are or how to get out, but Yue admits she has no clue. All she knows is that the labyrinth was made by mavericks, former divine messengers who turned against the gods and tried to destroy the world. But their plan failed, and now they're living deep inside the same labyrinth. While exploring further, Hajime finds high magic ore and starts crafting a new rifle. Yue takes this chance to ask a dozen questions. Hajime tells her everything. He explains how the gods summoned him and his classmates to fight demons, but unlike the others, he had no combat skills. Everyone called him useless, and things only got worse when one of his classmates betrayed him during a mission. He fell into the abyss and lost his arm, and from that point, he swore he would survive by any means, even if it meant by eating monsters. Yue feels bad after hearing it all, but Hajime tells her he's not looking for pity. He just wants to go home. She quietly says she doesn't have a home to return to, and that hits him a little. So he invites her to come with him and promises that wherever he ends up, she'll have a place by his side. Shortly after, a group of dinosaur-looking monsters starts chasing them, and no matter how far they run, the creatures don't stop. They notice strange flowers growing on the monsters' heads, acting like parasites controlling them. The duo somehow manages to escape, and during this time, Yue casually helps herself to Hajime's blood like it's her Red Bull. Once she's done, they move into a strange chamber where a green mist starts floating toward them. Before Hajime can even react, Yue suddenly starts attacking him. As it turns out, her body has been taken over by the flower's influence. Hajime then finally comes face to face with the flower monster, which is ugly enough to cause emotional damage. It grabs Yue and makes her shoot Hajime several times. It even tries to control Hajime using her flower technique, but the Giga Chad manages to resist it. Yue, now fully under the monster's control, attacks him without mercy. She feels really bad and urges him to eliminate her, but Hajime carefully shoots at the flower on her head instead. As soon as Yue's freed, Hajime follows up with another shot which finally unalives the monster. Later, Hajime sits down to eat more monster meat and offers Yue some, but she refuses. She instead removes her jacket and proceeds to suck the blood out of him. Afterward, they both descend down the stairs and eventually reach the 100th floor where they come across a strange pond. Just beyond it, they find a massive door. Hajime gets a weird gut feeling that something important is behind it, so without wasting time, he steps forward and opens the gate. Then the two of them enter inside and find themselves in a beautiful area with large pillars all around and a giant door up ahead. As they start walking toward the door, a monster suddenly appears. This one is a dragon-type beast with several heads, and it rushes toward Hajime to attack. It immediately launches a fireball, but Hajime dodges and counters with his own attack, opening fire on the monster with his gun. At first it seems like they've managed to unalive it, but then a white-colored monster appears. This one has the power to heal, and it revives the fallen monster along with others around it. Now it becomes clear that their real target is the white monster, because as long as it's alive, the other monsters keep coming back to life. Hajime and Yue realize they must eliminate the white one before anything else. At this crucial moment, Yue starts hallucinating. She sees a vision of Hajime walking away and leaving her behind. She screams in panic, thinking he's abandoning her, but it turns out to be an illusion created by the enemy. In reality, Hajime lifts her up and tries to escape the area by jumping out. The deadweight Yu has fallen unconscious by this point, so Hajime helps her drink a recovery potion. She slowly regains consciousness, and they both agree that they must defeat all the monsters and escape alive. Hajime then takes out his rifle and fires a massive barrage of energy from above. Meanwhile, one of the monsters tries to trap Yue in another illusion, but she snaps out of it quickly and strikes back. Another illusion targets Hajime, but it doesn't even affect him and he ends up shooting the monster point blank. Using his rifle, Hajime locks onto the white monster and fires, and Yue follows up with a powerful Heavenly Blaze magic attack, which wipes out several enemies at once. But due to the amount of power it takes, she collapses from exhaustion. Even though they've managed to unalive many monsters, the white one is still alive and launches another attack from above. Hajime jumps in front of Yue to shield her, but ends up dropping his weapon, injuring himself. He thuds to the ground and starts bleeding heavily, causing Yue to become panicked. The white dragon keeps attacking them, and the situation becomes increasingly dangerous. Yue, realizing there's no time to waste, lifts Hajime using her magic and begins to escape while still being pursued by the monster. When the creature comes close again, Yue grabs the gun, leaps forward like a possessed rat, and shoots directly at its head, causing it to lose control and unleash wildfire attacks. The impact knocks Yue to the ground, and she drops the gun as well. Seconds later, the stubborn dragon gets ready to attack her again. But this time, Hajime suddenly appears and saves her, carrying Yue in his arms. He asks for her magic support so he can finally finish the monster off. He then gives her the signal to prepare her magic attack while he continues firing bullets at the monster. Hajime even fixes several bombs on a wall nearby and then climbs directly in front of the monster's face, firing at close range. He also shoots the bombs, causing the entire wall to collapse onto the creature. A determined Hajime then activates his transmute skill and asks Yue to use her Azure Blaze attack, which she does. The combination of their powers causes a massive explosion that finally unalives the monster, but Hajime also collapses from the strain. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the sensei of the group, Aiko, complains about how unfair it is to send students into dangerous battles. She's upset because one of her friends has died, and everyone is scared. Upon hearing all of this, the king calmly replies that no one is being forced to fight, so anyone who doesn't want to continue is free to step away. Elsewhere, Kaori and her friends have also ventured deep into the labyrinth. Kaori is lost in thought, still thinking about Hajime and worrying about what happened to him, but her classmates suggest she try to forget about him, because they have to move forward no matter what. Later, Hajime is lying on a bed when a sudden gust of wind causes his eyes to snap open. He looks around and is shocked to find himself with an undressed Yue. Before he can ask what's going on, she hugs him tightly, as she thought he had died. Yuka then explains to him that they're currently in the Maverick's lair. When Hajime asks what happened after the fight, Yuka tells him that he had collapsed, so she brought him here and used holy water to help him recover. Hajime thanks her for saving his life, and the two walk outside to explore the surroundings. They eventually reach a palace, and as soon as they enter one of the rooms, the lights turn on automatically. A skeleton casually sits on a throne in the center, as if it's been waiting for GTA 6.
Here you go again.
Hajime, meanwhile, thinks that this room might have the exit to the outside world. As he steps into a glowing magic circle on the floor, the skeleton suddenly comes to life. The soul inside it introduces himself as Oscar, the one who created this labyrinth, and he congratulates Hajime for passing all the tests. When Hajime tries to ask questions, Oscar tells him not to, explaining that this is only a pre-recorded message and can't respond to any new questions. Oscar says he simply wanted to leave a message for whoever reached this far, to explain the truth of this world. Elsewhere, we see the rest of the students who've reached the 65th floor of the labyrinth. Shizuku feels like they've set a Guinness Book of World Record, completely unaware that their friend was literally on the 100th floor fighting against dragons. However, their captain Eminagawa warns them that they don't know what threats lie ahead, so they must stay alert. True to his assumption, the behemoth welcomes them at the same spot he had attacked them earlier. The whole team is shocked as they thought he was dead, but this time, they are prepared and stronger than before. As the battle begins, Kaori boldly tells the enemy that they'll finish him off and won't let him hurt anyone again. When the behemoth charges, Amanagawa slashes at him with his sword and orders everyone to get into position. One of the students blocks an incoming attack, while others charge in with well-coordinated moves. When three of them are about to fall from a ledge, Kaori uses her magic to stop them from falling. She continues using her healing powers to boost the strength of the warriors fighting beside her, while other students battle waves of skeleton monsters. Shizuku rallies everyone to get ready for the next assault. Just then, Behemoth leaps over them and goes straight for a girl standing behind them. She manages to block his attack with her shield, but the Behemoth is too strong and her shield begins to crack. This is when Kaori quickly heals her, saving the girl's life. Following this, Aiko launches multiple attacks on the enemy, while Amanagawa finishes him off with a powerful strike from his magic sword. With this, the team finally wins the fight, and the monster is slain for good. Back with Hajime, he's still listening to Oscar's spirit. The spirit admits he doesn't know exactly why Hajime came here, but he decides to grant him his power, asking him not to misuse it. As soon as the spirit vanishes, Hajime feels intense pain in his head, and the red circle glows once again. He finally gets to know that the gods and mavericks weren't evil but liberators. Later, Hajime realizes that he has learned a new magic spell that lets him add energy to colored minerals, and possibly even give them special qualities. Yue asks if she can learn this magic too. Night falls, and after some practice, Yue comes back and tells Hajime the spell is very hard. Hajime then says, since this place is theirs now, why not give Oscar a proper burial? After doing that, they explore the place and eventually come across a library. Hajime notices a key stuck in the skeleton's finger, which he later uses to open a basement full of ancient artifacts and structures. After seeing all of it, Hajime tells Yuppei that while he does want to return home, they should stay here a bit longer and learn as much as they can. If they want to explore other labyrinths, they'll need to be fully prepared. Some days later, Hajime fits a mechanical arm and Yume massages his back and wraps a bandage around his eye. She also prepares food for him, and Hajime devours it like a starving monk who just broke a 3-year vow of silence. At one point, Hajime even slips a ring onto Yue's finger to show her how big of a simp he is. As he's gained a lot of skills and gathered many powerful tools, Hajime realizes that the Holy Church and the other kingdoms won't stay quiet if they discover what he now possesses. He knows it's only a matter of time before they become targets of the godly beings, and that their journey might lead to a fight against the entire world. Hence, both of them make a vow to protect each other and keep moving forward no matter who they have to defeat along the way. The next day, we see a girl named Shay who's a rabbit but has the body of an OnlyFans star. She's desperately climbing a hill, trying to evade the two-headed dinosaur that's chasing her. Just then, an energy blast ensues and Hajime and Yue drop down from above. The dinosaurs freak out and run away after seeing them, and the duo is also happy that they finally reached the surface. Meanwhile, an overexcited Shay approaches Hajime and starts talking non-stop. He finds her very annoying and tries to leave, but Shay grabs his leg and starts begging him to save her family. Hajime doesn't understand why he should save a rabbit's family that he doesn't even know. Yue eventually chucks her away like trash, and Shay can't understand how they could leave such a beautiful girl like her behind. Soon after, the dinosaur appears again, but Hajime casually eliminates it with the help of his legendary gun. He then urges Shay to let go of his leg and even hits her on the head, but she ignores his personal space and starts rambling about how she's curvier than his girlfriend, so he should at least listen to her. Hajime finds her reasoning ridiculous and smacks her on the head again, but she continues to persist, so the duo eventually gives up and decides to listen to her. Shay then reveals that she was thrown out of her tribe, and soon after, monsters attack them. Her people are unable to defend themselves as they can't control any mana, but Shay can effortlessly do it, and can even use a specialized magic called Future Sight, through which she can see future events. That's how she already knew they were coming and recognized them. Hajime is clearly uninterested, so he creates a bike using his ring and proceeds to leave, but a desperate Shay stops him. She reveals that she knows he's headed for the Great Tree, and promises to guide him there herself. Hajime is still hesitant, but Yue convinces him, and the three of them begin their journey. Meanwhile, Shay's entire family is being chased by monsters as if they owe them money. A giant monster targets a kid and is about to feast on her, but Hajime arrives out of nowhere and unalives it. He then throws Shay in the air and uses her as bait to turn every single monster into burger meat. Within minutes, the danger is averted, and the tribe is finally free from all the monsters. That night, they sleep peacefully for the first time in months, and Shay thanks Hajime for helping them, but he once again acts rude with her. The next day, the entire tribe tells Hajime that they want to become stronger and ask him to train them. Hajime agrees and begins giving them a detailed tutorial on how to fight like a warrior. The entire tribe follows him with all their dedication, and even Shay learns some new fighting moves. After the training is finally over, Shay requests to come along with them on their journey. Hajime wants to know why she's so desperate to accompany them, and she responds that it's because she loves him and wants to stay by his side. On the other side, the tribe's people have gone rogue and are eliminating all the monsters that they come across. This worries Shay, and she wonders what Hajime taught them, but he claims he only taught them to fight. Shortly after, they reach the Great Tree, which is gigantic and has been dead for ages. They find a pillar there, which has the same design as the one at Oscar's palace. Hajime places his ring there, and learns that they have to cross the other 4 labyrinths to gain the special power of regeneration. Before departing, Hajime bids goodbye to the tribesmen who have started calling him master. They insist on going with him to help him out, but Hajime urges them to stay here and train even harder. Meanwhile, Shay remembers a childhood moment where she had asked her mother if she was a monster or the best. She didn't want to become a monster, but Mom assured her that it was okay to be different. Mom also revealed that Shay could do many things that the others couldn't. She then talked about the future and said Shay would meet some wonderful people who would come from outside of this forest and be just like her. Back in the present, the duo finally agrees to take Shay along with them, even though Hajime doesn't like her romantically. But Shay is desperate to change that, as her only goal is to make him eat her cakes. Later, the three head to a gorge and begin looking for the entrance to the labyrinth. While Hajime and Yue are busy checking the map, Shay suddenly says she needs to apply powder on her nose, but Hajime rudely tells her that no cosmetic stores are available in this part of the world. Just then, Shay discovers a cave behind the mountain with a strange signboard, and although someone seems to be speaking to them, they can't see anyone. As they begin searching for a way inside the labyrinth, Shay touches a wall and accidentally falls through it, triggering the wall to bend inward. Hajime immediately fires at the wall and rushes inside, only to find Shay awkwardly hanging there. To make things worse, she's wet herself in embarrassment. Soon, the group finds a stone that mysteriously starts talking to them. Shay tries to smash it with her hammer, but even after that, the voice voice continues, leaving her frustrated and disappointed. The trio then proceeds through a hall, where Hajime unknowingly steps on a trap, causing all the gates around them to slam shut. A huge boulder rolls down the staircase toward them, and although they try to use magic, it turns out their spells aren't working in this place. Hajime quickly pulls out his guns and blasts the rock apart, but more boulders keep following. Shay begins smashing the rocks away with her hammer and also intercepts a giant blade coming towards them. Hajime then picks up Yue like she's a sack of potatoes, and begins running as fast as he can while Shay follows from behind. They eventually find themselves back at the exact place they started, realizing they've just been running in circles. Shortly after, Hajime and the girls reach a lower level where inactive mechanical knights stand surrounding them. Just looking at them gives Hajime a strange feeling, so he orders the girls to attack them right away. The trio uses all of the skills they have and begin taking down the knights one after another. But no matter how many they unalive, more knights keep showing up, so they leap onto a moving platform that takes them upward. At the top, a massive creature is casually waiting for them, and she introduces herself as Milady Raisin. Hajime is confused because according to Oscar's notes, Milady Raisin was a human who died long ago. The creature seems shocked that Hajime cleared Oscar's labyrinth, but Hajime demands answers first, otherwise he's ready to fight. He says he's only here for the ancient magic and nothing else. The robotic being insists that she is the real Milady Raisin, and that if Hajime wants the magic, he must first answer some questions. She starts asking about Hajime's goals, and the reason behind his desire for ancient magic. Hajime explains that he was forced into this world against his will and now wants to return home. He desperately needs the ancient magic that allows one to jump between worlds. He then asks the robotic being to hand him the magic, but she refuses to do so. Enraged at the betrayal, Hajime whips out a freaking rocket launcher and blasts it at the robotic being. This is followed up by Shay, who leaps towards the robot and smashes its arm with her hammer. Hajime then fires a few more rounds targeting its core and joints. This causes the robotic being to drop to the ground, and the trio believes it has been terminated. But when the smoke clears, they're shocked to learn that the enemy is totally fine with not even a scratch on its body. Just then, they see a barrage of rocks coming their way, so Hajime quickly grabs both the girls and jumps from there. When they don't resurface for a moment, the robotic being thinks she's won the battle, but then Hajime pops up from a nearby pillar in true badass fashion. The three of them then launch another attack, but this time it's more coordinated and deadly. Hajime shoots a blast into the robot's core and attaches a device to its body. Yue uses her freezing ability to make sure the robot doesn't move, and then Shay delivers the final blow by hammering the device that has been attached to its body. The blow reaches the core and shatters it, finally bringing an end to the annoying robot. In the aftermath of the battle, Yue pets Shay like a puppy and praises her for being a good girl. This for some reason overwhelms Shay, and she becomes really emotional. Just then, the fallen robot begins speaking with the last bit of its remaining strength. It warns Hajime that if he wants to obtain ancient magic, he'll have to face the very gods. Moving forward, the trio reaches a new area where they meet the real Milady Raisin, a tiny doll-like girl. She tries to act all cute and kawaii, but an enraged Shay smacks her on the head with her hammer. After she calms down, Milady tells them that Hajime and Shay still don't have enough strength to handle ancient magic, but Yuke can already control it with ease. She then hands Hajime a special ring, but he's still not satisfied, so he begins shaking her for more ancient artifacts. Minutes later, as the trio is busy looting treasures, a fed-up Milady pulls a lever, causing a massive gush of water to sweep through the chamber. The trio soon finds themselves inside a river which has some strange animals like an ugly-looking fish. Hajime and Yue immediately manage to get to the shore, but a clumsy Shay ends up drowning. Thankfully, Hajime carries her out of the water and performs mouth-to-mouth resuscitation until she comes back to life. The three then head to a nearby hotel where they decide to spend the night. As they discuss the room arrangements, Yuki suggests putting Shay in a separate room, but the curvy girl strongly objects. She instead proposes that Yuki get a separate room, while she and Hajime can have fun all night. Unfortunately, Shay tells this a bit too loud, and the bystanders are completely stunned by what they just heard. A few days later, Hajime, Yue, and Shay are invited to Chang's house, who's the head of the Adventurers Guild. He is amazed by how the three managed to infiltrate the Raisin Gorge so easily, and now wants their help. Chang reveals that a party of 3 adventurers headed to the northern mountains for a survey, but they never returned. The rescue is particularly important because one of the missing people is Will Kudeta, the son of a powerful count. Chang further reveals that the group were attacked by something extremely strong, so he wants Hajime and his girls to rescue them. Hajime still refuses, but when Chang promises him full guild support if anything goes wrong, Hajime agrees under 2 conditions. He wants new status plates for all 3 of them, and if he ever makes a request, it must be fulfilled without question. Chang accepts the deal, and with that, the trio sets off on their mission. During their journey, they get hungry, so Hajime suggests they eat rice, his favorite dish from his homeland. Nearby at a hotel, Aiko is casually having lunch with her students. She praises them for their hard work and encourages them to continue tomorrow. As they talk white eating, the hotel owner comes to their table to ask how the food is. Everyone says they loved it, but the shady owner is still not satisfied. With a troubled look, he reveals that they've used up their last batch of spices and can't restock because of issues in the mountains. Rumors are swirling around that monsters may be involved, and some adventurers who went to check haven't returned. The owner also reveals that 3 elite guests have been sent there to take care of the situation. At this moment, Hajime and his team arrive at the same hotel, and Aiko immediately realizes that it's her long-lost student. She runs over to him, shocked and emotional, but he coldly tells her that he's not the person she's looking for. However, the stubborn Aiko grabs his hand and starts questioning him, desperate to understand what happened. Seconds later, Hajime sits at a table, casually flips through the menu, and orders curry. As he continues ignoring Aiko, she grows frustrated and demands to know who the two girls are. She and Yu casually say they're his lovers, but this shocks Aiko even more. Thinking he's having a threesome affair with them, she scolds Hajime and calls him disgusting. Eventually, all of them eat together, but Aiko continues to bombard Hajime with a lot of questions. His only response is that he worked really hard, giving no clear explanations, which annoys her even more. Just then, a knight suddenly approaches their table and lectures Hajime about how to speak to superiors. He then insults Shei's large ears, saying they should be cut so she can look more human. The knight also talks rudely to Yue, but she retaliates by calling him a small man. This offends the small man, and he proceeds to teach her a lesson with his sword, but as he reaches for it, Hajime shoots his hand and warns him not to try that again. Meanwhile, one of Aiko's students recalls how Hajime once protected her from skeletons back in the labyrinth, and is stunned to see how much he has changed. He's no longer the weak boy she remembers. He's become ruthless, powerful, and feared. After finishing his meal, Hajime tells Aiko he has no interest in rejoining them, doesn't want to explain what happened to him, and warns them not to interfere with his path again. Later, Shei seems bothered by the knight's comment, wondering if humans really dislike her ears. But Yue tells her not to worry as her ears are beautiful, and even Hajime likes them. As the trio leaves, Aiko promises that she won't give up and is determined to bring Hajime back home. That night, she sits in her hotel room, thinking about everything that happened. Suddenly, Hajime appears in her room, startling the life out of her. She asks how he got in, to which he explains that it's quite easy with the help of his new abilities. They then sit down and begin talking over coffee, and Hajime says he has something really important to disclose. He begins telling her the actual truth why he doesn't want to rejoin her group. In the past, when the ancient gods descended, they threw the world into war. Humans, demons, and countless other beastmen started fighting against one another. During these hard times, a group named the Liberators discovered that the gods were just using them all for entertainment. This prompted them to lose interest in the war, and they decided to resist, but the plan failed. The gods branded them enemies of the church and spread propaganda that they were destroying the world. Humanity turned against the Liberators, who were hunted down like animals. Most were unalived, and the few remaining survivors realized brute force couldn't defeat a god. They thus scattered, creating deadly trials across the world. Anyone who conquered these trials would gain immense power. The Liberators still hope that one day a true champion will rise and destroy the gods' twisted game. Hajime says this is what he learned when he was inside the labyrinth for all these months. Aiko asks if he plans to fight God, but Hajime says he doesn't care about any of that. He only wants to go home, and the labyrinths are just a path to that goal. Now that he's said everything, Hajime prepares to leave, but Aiko mentions that Kaori never lost faith in him. She always thought he would return, and she's currently working with a team inside the labyrinth. Hajime warns that friends can be even more dangerous than enemies because they can betray you when you least expect it. He then reveals that he didn't fall into the labyrinth by accident, someone pushed him in. The next morning, as the trio prepares for their mission, Aiko and her group also arrive, asking to join the search for the missing people. Hajime declines and pulls out his bike, but Aiko steps forward and insists on coming. Realizing she won't give up, Hajime agrees and creates a large truck with his ring which will fit all of them. The group then excitedly gets inside and they set out on their mission. On the way, Aiko ends up falling asleep on Hajime's shoulder, much to the annoyance of the other girls. Yue casually comments that Hajime seems to treat Aiko very kindly, so he explains that she's done a lot for him in the past, so it's only fair he treats her well in return. Soon they reach a rocky area, and Hajime activates his drone system. These little machines fly out and start scanning the surroundings, mainly to detect humans or monsters nearby. As the area gets scanned, a few weapons and shield bags come into view, scattered near a cliff. Hajime collects them and the group soon stumbles across a massive footprint. Yue takes one look at it and guesses that whatever left it must be a giant monster. They continue moving and eventually arrive at a waterfall. Hajime senses something behind the cascading water and tells Yue to slice through it. With a precise swing, she creates a path and they walk into the newly revealed cave. Inside, they find a boy lying unconscious on the ground, and Hajime casually pokes his nose, causing him to jolt awake. He turns out to be the same loser Will Kudeta that they've been looking for. Hajime introduces himself and says they've come on orders from the Adventurers Guild to save him. Will, who's still shaken and terrified, explains that their party was ambushed by a black dragon. His friends were all eliminated, so he's full of guilt rather than being grateful. Upon hearing this, Hajime grabs him by the collar and tells him bluntly that surviving isn't something to be ashamed of. Night begins to fall and they prepare to leave, but Hajime suddenly senses danger, and right on cue, the black dragon crashes in and launches a surprise attack. Hajime quickly forms a shield to protect everyone from becoming barbecue meat, while Yue jumps in to assist. Shie also comes charging from the side and slams the dragon with her hammer. Yue adds a follow-up magical blast, and together they knock the dragon to the ground. However, just when everyone breathes a sigh of relief, the dragon roars and stands up again. Shie quickly moves in for another strike, but the dragon smacks her with its tail, sending her flying into the river. Hajime retaliates with a rapid barrage of bullets, but the dragon keeps pushing forward and unleashes a powerful energy beam. It is aimed straight at Will, but Yue arrives in the nick of time and blocks it with an ice shield. Realizing that the dragon is targeting the weaklings, Hajime urges Aiko to take everyone else to a safe zone. Once she does, Hajime pulls out his sniper rifle and takes a clean shot. The dragon also breathes fire at the same time, creating a massive explosion that rocks the place. In the aftermath, Hajime quickly punches the dragon in the stomach before detonating a bomb near it. Despite all the damage, the dragon still gets up and tries to fight, but Shei uses her hammer to knock the life out of it. Now, with the beast finally subdued, Hajime pulls out a metal rod and shoves it where dragons really don't want metal rods shoved. This causes the poor beast to scream in a girl's voice, revealing that it's actually a member of the Dragonborn race. She begs Hajime to remove the rod from her backside, revealing that her mana is about to end, which means she'll soon transform into her human form. But instead of complying, he keeps shoving the rod deeper and deeper, causing her to almost pass out. Hajime even goes as far as twisting the rod while having a smug grin on his face. Finally, the dragon breaks and admits that she was manipulated. Someone had taken away her freedom and forced her to attack the adventurers, leaving her with no choice. Will doesn't believe her and accuses her of lying, but the dragon insists that her kind never lies. Yo-Yo also backs her up, saying dragons are honest creatures, so she must be telling the truth. The dragon seems touched that a normie like Yu is defending her, but Yu quickly makes it clear that she's actually 300 years old. Meanwhile, Will still doesn't want to forgive the dragon for committing the atrocities, and the dragon agrees to be punished, but she asks for a delay, as there's a bigger threat coming their way. She reveals that a mysterious figure is leading an army of monsters toward a nearby village, and she wants to stop him. An unconvinced Hajime refuses to let her go and proceeds to shove the rod even further, but Yue intervenes at the last second. She believes the dragon isn't lying and urges him to release her. This time, Hajime is finally convinced, and he slowly begins to pull the rod out. As soon as the dragon is free, she transforms into a beautiful woman named Tio. Instead of being angry at Hajime, she actually starts rizzing him up as it turns out she enjoyed the shoving after all. Tio then reminds the group that the army of 60,000 monsters is approaching fast, and they might reach the village in 2 days. She urges them to evacuate all the people as soon as possible. Will begs Hajime to help, but he refuses, saying his only job was to rescue Will, not save an entire village. He then proceeds to leave, but an insanely excited Tio claims that her mana is depleted, so she needs Hajime to carry her. He angrily starts dragging her instead, but Tio loves that as well, and begins screaming as if he shoved the rod again. As the monstrous horde continues to advance toward the village, Eiko pleads with Hajime to help. She knows that if they don't step in now, all the villagers will be slaughtered. Hajime asks if she's willing to risk the life of her students for the sake of people she doesn't even know. The sensei insists that her students are always her top priority, but she also can't bear to watch innocent people die. Eiko admits that she wasn't able to help Hajime when he needed her most, and she's really sorry about it. Hajime then asks if, no matter what he decides, she'll still be his teacher. She softly agrees, but asks him to at least listen to her before making his decision. Hajime says nothing more and walks off, saying it's time to prepare for the incoming army. He immediately gets to work building a magical boundary around the village, and the villagers rally to support him. The women and children are evacuated while the others prepare food and help distribute supplies to the defenders. Later that evening, Eiko approaches Hajime and offers help with anything he might need. He calmly tells her that the monsters are coming, and he's ready. That night, as Hajime is busy prepping missiles, a desperate Tio approaches him. She wants to fight by his side and insists she'll do whatever it takes. She even starts calling him master, and says she wants to help him win the battle. Hajime tries to refuse her, but even his harsh words excite the girl, as she has been dreaming of eating him ever since the rod incident. Yu and Shay observe everything from afar and are filled with slight jealousy. As the night deepens, the monstrous army finally approaches. Hajime then suddenly declares Eiko as the goddess of agriculture, who has summoned all of the heroes, including him, to fight the monsters. The villagers immediately start chanting her name, making Eiko blush like a ripe tomato. Hajime then announces that their victory is guaranteed because they now have a divine protector on their side. After this, Hajime pulls out his classic sniper and begins his assault on the enemy forces. Yue and Shay also equip themselves with rocket launchers, while Tio uses her dragon magic to take down the monsters. In just a matter of seconds, the battle heats up. Fireballs, tornadoes, and all kinds of magical attacks fly through the air. The monsters begin to fall one by one, but the heroes also start getting tired. When Hajime eventually runs out of ammo, he jumps onto his bike with Shay and heads out for a direct assault. Yu, meanwhile, unleashes an electric dragon spell to clear a path. Hajime and Shay then push deep into the enemy ranks, mowing down monsters as they go. Hajime doesn't even sustain a single scratch as he brutally unalives the monsters one after another. Shay, on the other hand, uses her brute strength to knock some away and even scares a few off. One wolf tries to pounce on her, but she slams it into the ground effortlessly. The two then finally come across the hooded person who's responsible for all this mayhem. Hajime takes down his wolf companion, and upon seeing his face, he's shell-shocked. It's one of Eiko's students named Shimizu, who had gone missing a while ago. After the battle is over and all the monsters are dead, Shimizu is brought in front of Eiko. She asks why he did all this, to which Shimizu reveals that he joined forces with the demons, because they treated him like he was someone special. Shimizu also believed that if he unalived Eiko, the demons would see him as a hero. However, things didn't go according to plan, and even his army of 60,000 demons was not enough. He wonders where Hajime got such powerful weapons and who he really is. Despite the chaos he has caused, Eiko gently takes Shimizu's hand and says she understands his pain. She knows that Shizuku wanted to feel special like the influencers on TikTok. But siding with demons and trying to unalive his own teacher isn't the way. Eiko then asks him to let go of the past and start over. However, even after all that lecture, Shizuku backstabs Eiko and quickly holds her at syringe point. He threatens to insect her with a toxic serum if the others don't drop their weapons. While most of them comply right away, Hajime refuses to hand over his weapons as he knows this won't end well. At this intense moment, Shay lunges forward to rescue Eiko, but someone shoots Shizuku from behind. Hajime spots the unknown person escaping on a dragon and fires a shot, but it doesn't do much damage. Meanwhile, Eiko was accidentally injected with the serum during the scuffle, and now she lies on the verge of death. Hajime knows she doesn't have much time, so he drinks the holy water and then transfers it to her, prompting her to slowly regain consciousness. business. Meanwhile, the traitor Shizuku is slowly bleeding to death due to the bullet wound. Aiko selflessly pleads with Hajime to save her student, but he firmly refuses, as the guy just tried to eliminate his own teacher. Hajime then turns to Shizuku and fires several rounds, ending his pathetic life once and for all. Aiko is stunned by what just happened, but Hajime tells her not to dwell on it and walks away. On the road back, Will quietly asks Hajime why he had to unalive Shizuku. After all, he was going to die in a few minutes anyway. Hajime doesn't say a word, but Yue reveals that if he hadn't finished off the traitor, Aiko would have spent the rest of her life blaming herself. She would have carried that guilt forever, and so Hajime took that burden onto himself. Down in the sewers, a group of shady people are discussing a secret plan. They've recently captured a rare monster girl and are planning to sell her for a good amount. Hajime, on the other hand, successfully brings Will to the guildmaster and completes his part of the deal. He later asks for one extra status plate so he can register Tio as well. One back in their room, the three girls chat non-stop as if tomorrow's the apocalypse, while Hajime stands by the window, observing something suspicious outside. Tio reminds Hajime that he once promised to take her on a city tour if she trained hard. But Hajime stays focused on the strange figures moving around. He mutters that whoever is watching them is going to die, whether they're human, beast, or a floating pair of eyeballs in a trench coat. At this moment, Tio suddenly becomes lost in thought. She recalls her father telling her long ago that although their enemies were powerful and dangerous, they weren't invisible. He believed that someday someone would come along strong enough to challenge even a god. After growing up, Tio returned to her village, where she sensed something strange happening. An old man revealed that the gods have summoned thousands of alien beings. Determined to protect her people, Tio made the bold decision to investigate, even though she didn't know what awaited her. In the present, Hajime takes Shay out for the promised city tour, and they roam around like confused tourists. She eventually drags him into an aquarium, where they come across a talking fish named Lehman. Hajime, being his rude self, tries to make fun of the fish, but it fires back with some insults of its own. This genuinely impresses Hajime, and the two end up chatting for a long time as if they're a couple. Later on, Hajime and Shay decide to release the talking fish in the river, and as they bid goodbye, Lehman reveals that a merfolk girl was also brought in the aquarium, but she was soon stolen. Lehman warns that there's a huge gang of slavers in the city, so a monster girl like Shay should watch out. Meanwhile, Yue and Tio are buying groceries in the market like a responsible couple. Tio casually asks Yue if she's okay with how close Hajime and Shay have become. The vampire girl says she doesn't mind at all, because if Hajime likes someone, she likes them too. On the other side, Shay is eating ice cream with Hajime and asks if he's happy that Tio joined their team. He clarifies that she didn't join the team but forced her way into it like a stubborn leech. He also says that Tio isn't a bad person, but she acts dirty most of the time. Just then, Hajime freezes as he senses the presence of something evil underground. He and Shay thus go to investigate and soon end up in the sewers, where they find a little girl locked up. It turns out she was being held by traffickers who were planning to sell her. After rescuing her, Hajime quickly takes her back to their room, where she regains consciousness. He gently asks her name, and she says Mew, after which he introduces himself and Shay. Since the girl is hungry and sick, they quickly wash her up, give her warm food, and dry her hair. Mew enjoys all of this and is genuinely happy to be with these strangers. She then reveals that she was separated from her family and captured by bad people, the same kind Layman had warned about. Now that she has been rescued and is out of danger, Shay asks what to do with her. Hajime says they should hand her over to the city guard, as it is the only sensible thing to do. Upon hearing this, Miu runs over to Hajime and hugs him tightly, unable to stop crying. Later, Hajime hands over Miu to the city guard and she angrily asks if he hates her, but he doesn't say a word and simply departs from there. As Hajime and Shay walk towards their room, they notice an explosion nearby. This leaves them worried and they quickly rush back, only to discover that the city guards have been unalived by someone. There's also a cryptic message written on the wall which tells Hajime to bring over the bunny girl if he wants to see Miu alive. Infuriated by the pathetic act, Hajime vows to find Miu and punish whoever's behind this. Elsewhere, Tio and Yue are having coffee together when a man suddenly bursts through the wall beside them. It turns out to be the doing of Hajime, who quickly explains the entire scenario to the girls. He was trying to extract information from the man but couldn't get anything. Hajime thus asks his entire team to help him out, and they begin a citywide search. They eventually reach an underground house where the group of traffickers are chilling. The girls quickly use their powers to obliterate the disgusting men while Hajime heads deeper in search of Miu. He soon finds her being harassed by a man, so Hajime shoots him on the spot with zero hesitation, seeing that he came to rescue her again. An emotional Miu rushes to hug him. Hajime then flies up into the sky with her, and they watch on as the other girls dismantle the entire trafficking ring. With peace now restored, Hajime brings Miu to the ground where the other girls are waiting for them. She meets all of them and even hugs Yue tightly as if she's her mom. Miu then turns to Hajime and calls him Big Bro, a name he doesn't like. He asks her to call him by his name instead, but the little girl now starts calling him Papa. The next day, Hajime drives everyone out of the town in his car, but it's Shia who's riding the bike. She makes sure to flaunt herself and look like a complete bellend. Inside the car, Miu insists that she wants to take the wheel, but Hajime refuses and promises to teach her later. He has fully embraced his father role and has even started addressing Miu as daughter. They soon reach a market, and Hajime starts reminiscing about his past memories with his friends. Miu asks why he's so gloomy, to which Hajime reveals that he was here 4 months ago, although it feels like years. The group then goes to meet the head of the guild, Loha, and Hajime immediately hands him a letter from Chong. Loha reads the letter and finds it hard to believe that a scrawny loser like Hajime Hajime wiped out 60,000 monsters and destroyed an evil organization in a single afternoon. Just then, a boy rushes in with an urgent message for the guild leader. Monsters have appeared in the labyrinth. Loha asks who sent the message, and the boy looks at Hajime and immediately recognizes him. Hajime then says the name Endo, and they greet each other as it turns out they are classmates. Endo is shocked to see how much Hajime has changed and become a completely different person, but he's glad to see him alive. Endo then pleads with Hajime to help them in the labyrinth, or else everyone there will die. In a flashback to a few hours ago, Amanogawa and his team are deep inside the labyrinth. They arrive at a sketchy place, and Shizuku immediately senses that something bad is about to happen. The group then finds monster blood splatter all across the floor, which means that something even bigger is lurking around. Before they can even figure out what it is, a demon with massive airbags and a raven on her shoulder appears from the shadows. She tries to persuade Amanogawa's team to join them, revealing that one of their friends has already accepted the offer and joined the demon side. However, Amanogawa flat out refuses and prepares to fight her instead. The demon woman then unleashes a barrage of giant monsters which begin to attack the group one by one. Kaori and the rest try their best to fight back, but the monsters prove to be overwhelming and no attack seems to make any real impact. Moreover, even if any of the monsters get slightly injured, the demon woman manages to heal them with the help of her creepy raven. Realizing that they're outmatched and outmuscled, the group tells Endo to use his camouflage to sneak out of this labyrinth and call for help. He's hesitant to leave them alone, but eventually agrees for the sake of others. Amanogawa, in a burst of rage, uses his sword to slice through one of the monsters completely. However, when a young girl tries to stop the next wave, cat-type monsters pierce through her stomach, turning her into stone. This devastates the entire group, and Shizuku urges that they run away from here immediately. When Amanogawa refuses and says they should keep fighting, she spanks him on the face to knock some sense into him. Meanwhile, Endo reaches the 17th floor, where he meets Captain Meld and explains everything in detail. Suddenly, a monster attacks them as it turns out Endo's camouflage wasn't that good after all. Meld fights it off and tells Endo to go inform the others outside, while he stays behind to hold off the enemy. This is why Endo came to the guild in the first place, to seek help. Back inside the labyrinth, the group has abandoned the fight and is trying to run as fast as they can. But when they get tired, the thoughts stop at a place and discuss their next move. Two of the members think it's best to join the demon woman so that all this bloodshed will end, but Amanogawa warns them not to trust the demon. As the group is busy discussing, Captain Meld appears in a severely injured state. He tries to tell them something, but a monster suddenly attacks him from behind, unaliving him on the spot. Soon, the demon woman also shows up, ready to finish off the remaining humans. The death of his captain leaves Amanogawa infuriated, and he decides to unleash his full power. He unlocks something called the Limit Break, and begins slicing the monsters like he's playing Fruit Ninja. At the guild office, Endo pleads with Hajime to rescue the group as they're his friends as well. However, Hajime replies coldly that they are not his friends, just strangers who happen to come from the same town. Meanwhile, Amanogawa launches a full power attack on the demon, who protects herself with a barrier. Amanogawa is so incensed that he breaks through the barrier and is about to eliminate her, but he suddenly stops when her pendant falls open, which has a picture of her with her lover. The distraction proves to be costly as a monster emerges from the ground and punches Amanogawa high in the sky. On the other side, Endo is down to his knees, pleading with Hajime to save his friends. This time, even the other girls urge him to save them and suggest they all go together. Down at the labyrinth, Kaori's mana has almost been exhausted, and she can no longer heal her injured friends. Shizuku is the only one left standing, and she charges at a monster to unalive it, but gets punched so hard that she starts vomiting blood. Kaori rushes to her and promises she'll never leave her side no matter what happens. They then hold hands and pray as two giant monsters come to finish them off. But just when all hope seems to be lost, a large iron rod penetrates both the monsters, unaliving them in an instant. As everyone breathes a sigh of relief, Hajime makes a grand entrance, leaving Kaori totally stunned. In a flashback to a few minutes ago, Hajime and his team are following Endo through the dark labyrinth. They are running as fast as they can, but they know time is running out with each passing second. This is why Hajime suddenly stops and pulls out one of his giant gadgets. With the help of it, he starts drilling the ground like he's about to search for oil there. Once the hole is big enough, Hajime casually dives in, followed by the other girls. He lands straight into the floor where the demon woman has cornered his teammates. When he eliminates the two monsters, Kaori instantly recognizes him and is shocked, while Shizuku can barely believe this is even the same Hajime they once knew. Nobody recognizes him at first because of his completely changed appearance and bionic arm. But when Kaori calls him by his name, they are left stunned. The rest of the team soon arrives. Hajime instructs them to protect everyone, while he handles the big boss himself. He confronts the demon directly and warns her that if she doesn't want to die, she should just leave. But this demon is as stubborn as a cat who refuses to bathe, and chooses to fight instead. So Hajime calmly activates his instinctual magic and starts gunning down every invisible monster in sight with perfect precision. Kaori watches in awe as Hajime casually wipes out all the enemies like he's clearing trash from his lawn. He uses a combination of guns and his magical skills to eliminate the creatures one after another. The demon panics and sends a giant turtle monster charging at him, but Hajime deflects its attack at the woman, injuring her. He then finishes off both the turtle and the annoying raven, leaving the demon vulnerable and angry. Just as the battle heats up, Amanogawa wonders who this insanely powerful and handsome guy is. Endo tells him that it's Hajime, but Amanogawa refuses to believe it. A guy named Hiyama even grabs Endo by the collar, saying Hajime is dead and can't possibly be back. For some reason, he seems to be really angry that his classmate is alive. The demon woman refuses to give up and conjures up more monsters, but Hajime's gang quickly pushes them back. Yue casts a black hole to suck in some monsters. Shaya uses her hammer to crush enemy after enemy like she's Thor, and Tio goes full ballistic to tear apart the helpless creatures. Suddenly, a massive snake charges toward Shizuku, so Hajime throws a sword toward her. She immediately uses it on the snake and slices it in half like a ripe banana. Shizuku is left amazed by how light and effective this seemingly normal-looking sword is. The demon, meanwhile, asks who Hajime really is, but before he can respond, she crashes a boulder on top of him. Miyu yells out "Papa," and Kaori is stunned to hear that. Thinking she has finally killed the main guy, the demon tries to run, but Hajime suddenly throws a rod from the pile of rubble, stopping her in her tracks. She can't understand how he's able to break her high-level magic and wonders if he's really human. Hajime bluntly tells her no, not anymore. He then shoots both her legs, knocking her down and demanding she tell him her intentions. The demon refuses and smugly says her lover will eventually come and kill him. But Hajime is the least concerned about that, and he boldly declares that he'll fight God if he has to. He then raises his gun at the demon, attempting to unalive her. Amanagawa tries to stop him, saying the demon is defenseless, but an unfazed Hajime pulls the trigger anyway, ending her miserable life. In the aftermath, the survivors try to recover using the holy water, while the girls tend to the injured. Yue and Hajime end up in a romantic moment, but Shay interrupts them, reminding them they're not in a private room. Kaori then approaches Hajime and expresses how happy she's to see him alive. Tears begin rolling down her face as she apologizes for not being able to save him that day in the labyrinth. Kaori then hugs him tightly, causing all the other girls to stare at her angrily. It is evident that they're jealous of this new nurse girl. After the group recovers, they make their way out of the labyrinth, and Amanagawa angrily confronts Hajime, saying he shouldn't have killed the demon as she had already surrendered. However, Hajime couldn't care less, as to him, she was the enemy. He also mentions that Amanagawa is salty because he didn't get to be the hero. Hajime bluntly reminds him this is how the world works. Either you kill, or get humped by a monster. Mercy is not a luxury he affords anymore, and if Amanagawa keeps talking, he'll get the same treatment. Hajime also makes it clear that they are not friends anymore, and the only reason he came here is because he owed Shizuku a favor. Now that the task is done, he will leave them and never see their disgusting faces again. Shizuku realizes how much Hajime has changed, though Kaori still believes that he's the same person he once was. The group then leaves the area, only to find the guild leader waiting for them with a massive army. It turns out the leader didn't think Hajime would defeat the monsters, so he had summoned backup. But now that he's made himself look like a donkey, he apologizes to Hajime. Meanwhile, Kaori gathers her courage and bluntly tells Hajime that she's coming with them. Yue asserts that she doesn't have what it takes to keep up, but Kaori assures her that she'll be fine. She then makes matters even more awkward by suddenly announcing that she loves Hajime. He honestly tells her that he's in love with someone else and can't reciprocate her feelings. This stings Kaori a lot, but she still insists on joining them, declaring that she's ready for the journey. She even challenges Yue by saying she can love Hajime even more than she does. To everyone's shock, Yue accepts the challenge and agrees to let her join the group. The two girls then engage in an intense stare-down, as if they're posing for an upcoming UFC match. Seconds later, Kaori suddenly grabs Hajime by the collar and asks why Miu calls him Papa, and who her mother is. She believes that he's knocked up one of the three girls from his group and has become a playboy. She keeps screaming like a possessed lady, but thankfully, Shizuku grabs her and takes her away. As night falls, Hajime stands quietly outside the base, and Shizuku comes to speak with him. She tries returning him the sword he gave her earlier, but Hajime asks her to keep it. He reveals that it's made from the strongest elements in the world and can cut through literally anything. The next morning, Kaori bids an emotional goodbye to her team and gets into the car with the others. She wants to sit beside Hajime, but the others tell her that Yue is the only one who gets to sit there. Just then, little Miu says a forbidden word, which causes Hajime to almost lose control of the vehicle in the polished, gilded halls of the Hylia Kingdom, where the air is thick with anxiety. As a general informs Pope Ishtar about the kid issues in the basement, Princess Liliana stands beside him, trying to maintain her composure. They are talking about the long-awaited return of the summoned hero, Amanagawa and his group. But Liliana is visibly on edge, a fact the Pope gently points out. She remembers the horrible accident during their training, and the brutal reality that these students were forced to become soldiers with no way home. But her thoughts are shattered by the joyous announcement that the hero has finally returned. Liliana immediately rushes out of the gates like a capybara. With drool in her disgusting little mouth, she runs through the royal hallways to meet her friends. As soon as Liliana sees them, she throws her arms around her friends for a warm hug. A grand welcome back party is thrown for the heroes, but the celebration feels hollow. While the second party members are relieved to have the heroes back, Amanagawa, the so-called hero, is a ghost at his own party, moping in a corner like a school shooter. On the other hand, one of the heroes, Daisuke, gets flustered by all the questions. He's not just paranoid about all the horrors inside the labyrinth. It's the fact that Hajime, the boy they all left for dead, ended up saving him yet again. The humiliation is a bitter pill to swallow. The conversation naturally turns to the two missing members of their class. Liliana learns that Kaori, the gentle priestess, has made the shocking decision to stay with Hajime. Despite their pleas for Hajime to rejoin them, he coldly refused, making it clear that his only goal is to find his own way back to Japan, not to fight their holy war. A profound curiosity sparks in Liliana, as she desperately wants to meet Hajime, who went from being the weakest simp to a figure of legendary power. The scene then violently shifts from the pristine kingdom to the sun-scorched, unforgiving sands of the Gruen Desert. A monstrous, heavily armed vehicle barrels across the dunes. Inside, Hajime is surrounded by all the chicks he collected from the earlier season. Miu, Hajime's adopted dragon girl daughter, marvels at how cool and awesome her papa is. Kaori also tries to use this title, but it makes Hajime visibly uncomfortable since the girl is literally his classmate. Within seconds, the annoying little chicks start bickering over who gets to lick Hajime's banana. The argument becomes so childish that it's brought to a screeching halt by Miu, who delivers a scathing lecture on how their behavior is bad for her education, shaming them into a temporary truce. Just then, Tio rests her airbags on Hajime's head and informs him of the danger ahead. A swarm of sandworms is blocking their path, as these creatures feast on travelers. Suddenly, a worm appears out of nowhere to gobble up their vehicle, but they manage to escape in the nick of time. However, they are chased by some more sandworms, while Hajime's worm gets even sandier inside his pants. As he expertly pilots the car through the chaos, the harem's bickering hilariously reignites. Tio tries to get in on the action by pressing her ample melons against Hajime, while Kaori clings to him for safety. To make matters more interesting, he drives the vehicle in reverse, hoping to get a good look at the monsters. Hajime realizes that they cannot outrun these creatures, so he launches some missiles from his armored vehicle, obliterating the sandworms in a series of visceral explosions. The battle is far from over, so Hajime pulls out a monstrous machine gun, but the sandworms all vanish into the desert. Just as they move on, they spot a lone figure collapsed on the sand, the very thing the sandworms seemed hesitant to eat. Despite the risk, Kaori's medical instincts kick in, and she insists on helping. On the ground, she quickly diagnoses the man with a severe case of mana overload, a condition where his body is producing far more power than it can handle, threatening to rupture his organs from the inside out. Her normal healing magic is useless in this case, so Kaori uses the high-rank light magic Sanctorum to forcefully drain the excess mana into the holy crystal ring Hajime gave her, while everybody watches the process like dummies. Unfortunately, even this strong magic cannot save this injured man completely. Nobody in the group knows what the heck to do in this scenario, but Hajime thinks the injured man has AIDS and is completely fine. A few moments later, the injured man named Baize regains consciousness. His delirious eyes fall upon Kaori, and he becomes convinced he has died and is now being greeted by a goddess in heaven. Hajime, having zero patience for such dramatics, shatters the illusion with a firm stomp on Baize's chest, bluntly informing him he's very much alive. Once aboard the armored vehicle, Miyu hands this poor man some water, a gesture that makes his heart melt. As the vehicle cuts through the desert, a hydrated and humbled Baize explains his story. He is the son of the Duke of Ankaji, a vital trade hub that is now on the brink of collapse. Their sole water source, the oasis, has been poisoned, causing the citizens to suffer the same mana overload he did. The only cure is a rare mineral called a stillstone, which can only be found deep within the treacherous Grand Gruen volcano. With his city's adventurers all addicted to TikTok, Baize set out alone for help, only to fall victim to the poison himself. With his story told, he begs the group for their support, seeing Kaori as a goddess sent by divine will. The mention of God makes Hajime visibly sneer, but Bize continues begging for help like Andrew Tate fans. Hajime stays silent for a while, but when the sweet Miyu pleads with him to save the man's village, he finally agrees. The group was heading to Ankaji anyway. Yue confidently assures them she can handle the water supply, a claim that baffles Bize. With their new mission set, the group speeds toward the dying city. Meanwhile, in a shadowy sanctum, the demon commander Frayed Bagua confirms to his subordinate Mikhail that their general Katleya is dead. He claims that Katleya was killed by an irregular force of just 4 individuals, who also annihilated their 60,000-strong monster army near the town of Realizing their enemies are far stronger than anticipated, Frayed declares his new plan. He will travel to the Grand Gruen volcano to acquire a new Age of God magic. As he departs, he vows to avenge Katleya and crush the heathens who stand in the way of his god's sacred mission, completely unaware he is heading for a direct collision with the very irregulars who caused all his problems. The monstrous Breeze vehicle rolls through the gates of Ankaji, revealing a city that is both beautiful and tragically silent, almost like Washington, D.C. under Donald Trump. The streets are nearly empty, and a palpable sense of despair replaces the usual hustle of a major trade hub. Breeze fathers, the esteemed Duke Lanzui Zengen, rushes out to meet them. While Breeze's face has a mask of desperation, Lanzui then begs the teenagers to save his entire kingdom, as if it's the most normal thing in the world. Without wasting a moment, the team splits up to execute a brutally efficient plan. While Hajime fills a piece of land with concrete like an idiot, Yue takes a more direct approach. With a calm focus that belies the incredible power she's about to unleash, she summons a colossal deluge of pure, clean water, creating a massive shimmering lake in an instant, a feat of magic that leaves the Duke and his men utterly speechless. This new reservoir would be more than enough to sustain the city for the time being. With the immediate humanitarian crisis managed, Hajime turns his attention to the source of the problem. He informs the Duke that his demon eye has detected something unnatural lurking at the bottom of the poisoned oasis. The Duke explains that his own research teams hadn't dared to explore the oasis floor itself. Hajime, ever the pragmatist, decides to lure the creature out with the most effective tool he knows, a high explosives. Without hesitation, he casually tosses a volley of grenades into the pristine water, an act that sends the Duke into a full-blown panic, screaming at Hajime to stop. However, his protests are cut short as a grotesque, multi-limbed monster suddenly erupts from the surface. The monster looks like flavored semen and is faster than it looks, but it's no match for Hajime and his crew. They quickly trap it within a shimmering membrane of energy, rendering it helpless before executing it with a decisive blast. The immediate threat is gone, but the water remains tainted. Tigyo, with her ancient draconic wisdom, reassures the Duke that the oasis is fed by a constant flow of fresh water. After the battle, Hajime claims that the monster was being controlled by someone, confirming his suspicion that the demons, like Israel's president, were behind the attack. Inside the halls, Duke Zengen declares Hajime and his companions the saviors of their nation. Hajime, in his typical cynical fashion, does not accept the praise, despite the people in the city rejoicing in their victory. With the city stabilized, the group prepares to depart for the Grand Gruen volcano. Kaori and Mew announce they will stay behind to continue treating the sick and offer oral support to the men. In a quiet moment before he leaves, Kaori asks Hajime to come back safely, her gentle demeanor hiding a steel-willed determination. The journey into the volcanic region is a trial in itself. The air becomes a suffocating wave of heat that leaves Shay wilting like a cooked rabbit. Tio naturally finds the scorching temperature quite comfortable. They soon find the entrance to the labyrinth and press forward into the molten tunnels. As they move inside cautiously, they spot a few tiny flecks of the coveted silent stone, but it's clear the upper levels have been mined clean. To get what they need, they'll have to venture deeper than any adventurer has gone before. However, their descent is promptly interrupted by a golem forged from molten rock. As soon as the golem launches an attack, Yue immediately unleashes a black hole, trapping the molten attack inside the stupid little golem's body. While Hajime points his gun at the monster, Shay steps in to test her new warhammer. With a thunderous cry, she unleashes a single devastating blow. The hammer's kinetic energy converter amplifies the impact to such a degree that it not only vaporizes the monster, but also carves a massive crater in the cavern wall. This display of power even impresses Hajime's limp ding-dong. Forced to take a break from the oppressive heat, the group discusses the nature of their quest. The girls unleash a mixture of magical powers to keep themselves cool inside the volcanic dungeon. At that moment, Tio posits a fascinating theory, that each of the great labyrinths is designed with a specific concept to test the challengers. Orcus was a test of combat experience, Ryzen a test of fighting without mana, and this volcano, she speculates, is a test of maintaining focus and reacting to surprise attacks under extreme environmental pressure. Hajime is impressed by this logic, but he is more impressed by the disgusting sweaty airbags that lie in front of him. Deciding on a shortcut, they take a magically shielded boat down a river of flowing magma, an experience akin to a death-defying amusement park ride. The river deposits them in a colossal circular cavern. At its center is a rocky island, and the walls are embedded with exactly 100 glowing red gems. This is undoubtedly the final trial, as everyone agrees that this island is the source of all the misery they're experiencing. As Hajime prepares to investigate the island, the magma around them erupts like John F. Kennedy's head. Hundreds of lava lumps emerge and charge straight at their flimsy little boat. They all manage to get to safety, and Hajime decides to investigate the attacks. Just as he moves out to investigate the island, 10 serpents made of pure lava burst forth, their bodies regenerating instantly from any damage. Hajime's demon eye discerns the truth. Each snake is powered by a hidden mana crystal, and the only way to unalive them is to destroy the core. Furthermore, they realize the number of snakes corresponds to the gems on the wall. The test is clear. They must defeat 100 of these regenerating monsters in this hellish heat. What follows is not a desperate battle, but a chaotic and competitive free-for-all. Tio, Shay, and Yue begin competing for the most kills, each declaring the reward they want from Hajime. Tio wants to get railed like Bonnie Blue. Shay wants a reward of her own, and Yue demands an intense penetration activity later that night. They then unleash a spectacular and overwhelming barrage of magic and brute force, with Yue's lightning worm spell proving so devastatingly effective that Shay declares her power level to be completely bugged. They tear through the horde, and as the last of the 100 serpents dissolves into the magma, a momentary sense of triumph fills the air. Hajime declares their conquest of the Grand Gruen volcano complete. But just as the words leave his lips, a blindingly fast, pencil-thin beam of crimson light descends from an unseen point high above. It strikes Hajime dead on, piercing through his defenses and slamming him into the ground in a deafening explosion. Yuka gets horrified by this, as she won't be penetrated if Hajime dies. Yuka's horrified scream tears through the molten air with a sound of pure anguish, as she watches Hajime's unconscious body floating like a dead leaf. Scrambling to his side, she ignores her own safety, her mind a frantic vortex of fear and desperation. She cradles his head and pours a vial of life-saving ambrosia into his mouth. Just as she does, a second, even more powerful beam of energy materializes high above, screaming down towards them. But this time, his harem is ready. Tio throws up a powerful defensive barrier while Shay, with a guttural roar, intercepts the blast with a swirling vortex of wind magic. The two just barely managing to deflect the cataclysmic attack. From the shadows emerges their ambusher, the demon general Frag Bagua, flanked by a horde of formidable chimera-like dragons. Just as Fried makes his classic villain entry speech, Hajime makes his classic hero speech. This makes the girls drip gravy from under their legs immediately. Fried scoffs from his perch, impressed yet annoyed that Hajime survived a direct hit from a dragon's breath attack. Propped up against a rock, Hajime demands to know his attacker's identity, questioning how many ancient magics he possesses. Fried, apparently a fan of dramatic villain monologues, declares there's no point in introductions for a man who is about to die. Hajime calls him out on his terrible manners before casually inquiring about the well-being of Fried's former associate Reese, whose arm Hajime had personally removed. This comment hits Fried like a Russian missile. Enraged by this, he formally introduces himself as God's obedient apostle. here to deliver divine punishment to heathens. He boasts that upon gaining his ancient power, his god spoke to him directly, anointing him for a sacred mission. Hajime simply sneers at the delusion that's only reserved for girls on TikTok. The tense standoff ends with both men declaring the other an obstacle in their path, an enemy to be utterly annihilated. As the hero crew stands tall together, they team up to launch an attack at Frayed, but it is effortlessly blocked by his magical barrier. Suddenly, Frayed teleports behind Hajime, who charges at him with the same white light attack from earlier. The battle that follows is a chaotic spectacle of overwhelming force. While Shay and Tio engage the powerful dragons, Hajime provides covering fire, only to find his bullets sparking uselessly against Frayed's impenetrable magical defenses. Realizing a conventional approach is futile, Frayed begins a long, ominous chant like the priests in Scientology labs. Yua immediately recognizes the incantation for an Age of Gods magic and moves to intercept. But she's too late. Now Frayed rips a hole in the very fabric of reality, creating a corridor into the divine realm. With a chilling grin, he unleashes Cosmic Rift, a devastating attack that bypasses all defenses. The blast sends Hajime hurtling towards the edge of the platform, his body teetering precariously over the churning magma below. Thankfully, Tio's last-second intervention saves his ding-dong from catching fire. As she struggles to hold her ground, her mind flashes back to a painful memory. The day her father declared that the Dragonborn race, now branded enemies of God, must go into hiding to survive a genocidal hunt. Tio's father had instilled in her their most sacred principle. Without virtue, they were mere props for Hollywood. But as long as they wielded the sword of reason, they would remain noble Dragonborn. Back in the present, Hajime, pushed to his absolute limit, unleashes his trump card, a swarm of remote-controlled crossbit drones that attack Frayed with a relentless barrage of gunfire from every angle imaginable. He follows up with a concentrated blast from his cannon, and just as it's about to connect, Frayed grows visibly anxious like Jordan Peterson in a debate. At the last second, as he attempts to escape, he is blasted away like a punching bag. Titio, consumed by a blinding light, undergoes a terrifying transformation. Her human form dissolves, replaced by the colossal, majestic figure of a pitch-black dragon. The reveal leaves Frayed utterly stunned, since the Dragonborn were supposed to have been wiped out ages ago. Before he can even process this revelation, Tio unleashes a torrent of dark flame, a stinky dragon's breath that engulfs him completely. The attack is devastating, but shockingly, Frayed survives, his own power shielding him from total annihilation. Just as the battle reaches its apex, Hajime teleports behind him and charges, forcing Frayed to retreat. But Hajime, battered and exhausted, collapses as his levitating weapon deactivates, leaving him vulnerable. Tio scoops him up with ease, but surprisingly, Frayed does not strike. Instead, he decides to end the fight in one decisive move, openly admitting that Hajime's unstoppable will to survive is his most terrifying trait. Yet the hero refuses to back down. Smirking like he's in a strip club, Frayed opts for a far deadlier solution. With a powerful spell, he shatters the labyrinth's cornerstone. The effect is immediate and catastrophic. The entire cavern begins to shake like a teenager in his bed. The sea of magma swells, and it rises at an alarming rate. Frayed explains that the volcano's long-dormant state was artificially maintained by the cornerstone. Now that it is destroyed, a super eruption is inevitable. He cackles maniacally like Kamala Harris, declaring that Hajime and his companions will perish here, buried beneath a mountain of fire and rock. As his companions stare in horror at their impending doom, Hajime's mind works with chilling clarity. He grabs Tio's dragon-sized melons with urgency. She initially misinterprets his action as him singling her out as unworthy of dying beside him. But he quickly clarifies, Hajime hasn't given up on anything. He will conquer this labyrinth, he will get the Silent Stones, he will defeat Frayed one day, and he will deliver on his promise to Ankaji. But he can't do it without her support. Only Tio has the strength to punch through the collapsing ceiling and deliver the stones back to the city before it's too late. His words, more desperate plea than command, strike a deep chord inside Tio's pants. With tears welling in her eyes, she accepts the mission. Hajime then asks her to deliver a message to Kaori that he wants to smash her backside as soon as possible. With her purpose crystal clear, Tio launches herself upward, embracing the pain of the falling debris, her unique pain conversion ability, turning every agonizing blow into raw power. Even as enemy attacks continue, she smashes through the collapsing ceiling and bursts into the open sky, a black streak against the erupting volcano. Frayed watches in disbelief, vowing to hunt the dragon down, but before he can act, Hajime's entire arsenal locks onto him. Without hesitation, Hajime fires, blasting Frayed into smithereens, as the entire volcanic mountain collapses in a cataclysmic display, dissolving before Tio's very eyes. The scene shifts to the tranquil grounds of the Healy Kingdom, where Shizuku is interrupted during her solo training by a mischievous hairy pussy. She briefly lets her stern guard down, playfully chastising the naughty creature. However, her rare moment of softness is immediately caught by Princess Liliana, much to Shizuku's profound embarrassment. Their conversation quickly turns serious as Liliana delivers grim news. The kingdom and the church are considering branding Hajime as a heretic, a man who defies the kingdom's divine orders. Meanwhile, deep within a dark forest, Daisuke seethes with rage, cursing the cruel twist of fate that allowed Hajime to live. A seductive, disembodied female voice slithers into his mind, stoking the flames of jealousy and reminding him that his beloved Kaori was stolen away. The voice offers a chilling bargain. If he cooperates, she will grant his deepest, darkest desires. Consumed by hatred and lust for vengeance, Daisuke listens, his fate now entwined with that of a sinister, unseen manipulator. On the other hand, A heavily injured dragon plummets from the sky, crashing into the sands outside Ankaji with enough force to carve a shallow crater. This is no ordinary dragon. It's a battered and bloodied Tio, her clothes shredded and her body covered in bruises. As the stunned guards glance to look at her milk containers, Kaori sprints to her side, her mind racing with the worst possible scenarios. Through gritted teeth, Tio musters a faint but reassuring smile, doing her best to calm her panicked friend. She explains that Hajime was anything but pessimistic when they parted ways, and confidently assures Kaori that he will return as if nothing had happened at all. The words work like a powerful charm. Kaori's fear melts away, replaced by unshakable certainty. She knows her Hajime. For him, a volcanic eruption is the same as volcanic ejaculation. He would survive, stroll out of the inferno like it was nothing. However, Kaori wants to be ready for him when he arrives. Meanwhile, far away from the chaos, the architect of this destruction is still alive. Hajime floats in a strange, serene expanse, an endless void of shimmering blue water, with Yue resting on top of his sausage. It has been days since the ejaculated volcanic eruption. Hajime's body is slowly purging the lingering poison from Fried's burning light attack, while Yue regains her strength after receiving a life-saving blood transfusion from the now unconscious Shay. As they drift in the stillness, they reflect on their absurd fortune. They manage to survive a supervolcano, only to end up stranded in an unfamiliar dimension. Their quiet recovery is suddenly interrupted as a massive, intricate magic circle mate realizes before them, radiating divine energy. It is revealed to be the final reward from the labyrinth's creator, Nais Gruen. The circle contains the secrets of spatial magic, the very power Fried used to teleport and ambush them. Alongside it is a simple, heartfelt message from Nais, expressing his hope that the future of mankind would be guided by free will. With the proof of conquest and the ancient magic secured, only one problem remains: getting out. The labyrinth above them is now nothing more than a solid tomb of hardened lava. But Hajime has a ridiculously over-prepared plan he once saw on TikTok. He reveals that he had already constructed a state-of-the-art submarine in anticipation of their next labyrinth. Without missing a beat, they pool their magical power to carve a path through the lava and locate the vessel. Hajime claims that a trial run in a sea of magma practically earns him a bachelor's degree in rizzing. He summons the vessel, which is a sleek obsidian black craft, and the group climbs aboard. But their escape is anything but smooth. The violent churning pressure of the post-eruption magma chamber seizes the submarine, tossing it around like a toy. Instead of being pushed upward, they are dragged diagonally downward like a classic right-handed jerk motion, pulled deeper into the planet's blazing core. Trapped and powerless, they can only brace themselves for a journey to an unknown destination. Even in the face of this terrifying plunge, Yue and Shay, even in her unconscious state, reaffirm their unwavering faith. They are ready to follow Hajime to the very ends of the earth, or straight to his hairy ding-dong. After a brutal subterranean journey that depletes their ammunition, Yue is forced to use Shay's massive reserves of blood to keep fighting off monstrous creatures. Their vessel is unceremoniously spat out into the cold, dark depths of an ocean. The three warriors surface in the salty air, and a sky they thought they might never see again. As they share their shenanigans, they grab some fish from the ocean and devour them raw like a hungry Bear Grylls. However, this does not go unnoticed. A patrol of soldiers, bewildered by the sudden appearance of a futuristic submarine, immediately surrounds them. This causes Hajime to choke on the fish, almost unaliving himself in the process. While Shay tries to calm the situation, one soldier attempts to attack her. Hajime hits him with a fish like a cricketer, aiming for a home run. Before Hajime can resort to his usual brand of violent diplomacy, Miu is seen falling from the sky like a meteor. Tio flies beside her, but Hajime propels himself to grab the little girl safely. Miu is genuinely happy to see him, and Hajime gently scolds her for jumping through the sky. Kairi also expresses how worried she was and hugs him. The tender moment is, of course, immediately ruined by Tio, who tackles him in a seductive hug, loudly demanding penetration that night in bed. Moments later, the group makes their way into a town called Irizen, where they are stopped by the guards. But after confirming that Hajime has balls of steel, they decide to let them go. It turns out that Miu was born in Irizen, and she wants to meet her mother. As the girls follow Miu and Hajime, they all walk towards the little girl's home. As they reach the premises, Miu's mother, Rumiya, a beautiful woman with a kind face, is hobbling on a severely injured leg, a wound she sustained from the kidnappers who took Miu in the first place. After this emotional reunion, Hajime approaches Rumiya and carries her like a sack of potatoes. Later, they go inside the house where Kaori immediately gets to work, promising a full recovery of Remiya's leg. Overcome with gratitude, Remiya offers to repay Hajime with her entire life, a playfully seductive proposal that instantly causes the temperature around Yue and Kaori to plummet by several degrees. Remiya, sharp and witty, notes Hajime's popularity with a knowing smile, teasingly asking Miu if she wants a papa. Miu, with the simple wisdom of a child, simply states, "Papa is papa." This declaration leaves Hajime flustered, as he is tired of soaking his sausage in sticky substances between the girl's legs. The scene cuts back to the gilded cage of the Heilei Kingdom. Aiko-sensei, their former teacher, is speaking with Shizuku, her face etched with worry. She recounts her own near-death experience, and how Hajime had saved her, musing that despite his monstrous transformation, his ding-dong is still tender and warm. But their conversation takes a dark turn. Shizuku presses her for news from the capital, and Aiko delivers the grim verdict. The king and the church, acting strangely and ignoring all her objections, have officially branded Hajime a heretic. The boy who saved a town and his teacher is now an enemy of the state. The kingdom has branded Hajime as a dangerous pawn in a political game, whose rules are secretly being rewritten by a sinister, unknown force. With Mayu safely reunited with her mother, the time for relaxation was over. Their next objective loomed: the sunken ruins of Melusine. Aboard Hajime's submarine, the girls are seen flushing all their filthiness away in the shower. Kaori comes out looking for Hajime, only to find him on top of the submarine. She stands beside him, remarking how the setting sun looks like a painting in hues of orange and gold. Hajime agrees. Their time in this world has been so relentlessly chaotic that a single day can feel like a year. Just then, a jealous Yue snoops in, and within seconds the entire female fleet arrives on the scene. As night falls and the moon casts a silver glow upon the water, everyone watches the moon like a bunch of lunatics. The quiet, peaceful moment is a rare gift. Hajime decides the time is right, pulling out the compass-like artifact he received as the proof of conquest from the Grand Gruan volcano. As he channels a small amount of mana into it, the device hums to life, emitting a soft, ethereal light. As the girls lose their collective minds, a beam of energy projects from the compass, piercing the darkness and pointing directly down into the ocean depths, illuminating a path for them. Soon, the submarine enters a cave underneath the ocean, which would have been impossible to find without the laser compass. With their course set, Hajime pilots the submarine into the depths, following the magical current. The journey quickly becomes turbulent, as they are caught in a powerful, magically induced whirlpool, pulling them towards their destination with incredible force. Their descent is interrupted by the appearance of a massive serpentine sea monster, its form glowing with a malevolent black-red aura. For Hajime, this isn't a threat, it's a field test. He calmly deploys a new set of underwater drones, which lance through the water and obliterate the beast with pinpoint precision. After dispatching 4 more identical monsters that appear at precise pentagram-like intervals, they arrive at the entrance, a dark, unassuming cave carved into an underwater mountain. The girls cannot believe that this anime protagonist is a cool dude and start getting moist under their seats. The pentagram slowly opens, and Hajime steers his submarine inside the cave. The labyrinth is a series of damp, winding caverns. The water level begins to rise steadily, forcing the group to wade through it. Yue, seizing the opportunity, promptly makes herself comfortable on Hajime's shoulders, a move that earns a sharp, jealous glare from all the girls in that filthy little cave. In a moment of childish pique, Kaori calls her Yu-chan, a title usually reserved for children like Mew. But Yu-chan simply tells Kaori that her melons stink of expired milk. Their bickering is cut short by the appearance of the labyrinth's monsters. These creatures are pathetically weak, slug-like creatures that dissolve with minimal effort. At this point, Hajime grows suspicious because for a great labyrinth, these enemies are far too easy to defeat. His suspicion is confirmed moments later when a colossal, translucent green jelly-like creature oozes from the walls, like it belongs inside Johnny Sins' ballsack. This is the real Guardian. The creature is impervious to their attacks as Hajime's powerful flames are instantly extinguished, and even Yue's magic melts away on contact. Hajime quickly realizes the jelly itself dissolves magic. Before they can form a new strategy, the creature emerges fully from the depths and takes the shape of a giant moth. As soon as it attacks, Hajime and his crew unleash their own barrage. Kaori creates a massive shield around them, while Yue, Tio, and Hajime strike back with everything they've got. Hajime's demon eye reveals the horrifying truth. The cavern itself is the creature. They've been trapped inside its belly all along. As the acidic walls close in, Hajime acts fast, firing an explosive round at the floor and blasting a hole into a cavern below. Even the girls give their all to support him, but the creature is relentless, forcing them to tumble into the darkness. Hajime lands hard on his ass, cushioning Kaori's fall. They are alone on this island-like place, separated from the others in the chaos. Kaori, dazed and disoriented, suddenly asks him a question that has been weighing on her mind. Why did he choose to save her and not Yue? Hajime's answer is brutally practical. Yue, he explains, is more than capable of taking care of herself. And besides, he already smashed that girl last week. His unwavering confidence leaves Kaori speechless, as a fresh wave of insecurity washes over her. Now as they walk further, they find themselves in a vast underwater graveyard of derelict warships, relics of a long-forgotten conflict. Just as they begin exploring, the eerie silence is broken when ghostly soldiers materialize all around them. The two warriors can hardly believe their eyes as a full-scale battle unfolds before them. Suddenly, a barrage of fiery cannonballs rains down, but Kaori blocks them with her magic shield. At this moment, Hajime realizes that physical attacks won't work in this labyrinth, as only attacks infused with magic power can disperse the phantoms. Kaori, forced to defend her 5-pound milk containers, is visibly shaken by the act of striking down these spirits, even if they aren't real. She apologizes for her hesitation, a habit that is beginning to wear on Hajime. But for Hajime, the real trial isn't the ghostly army, it's Kaori herself. He stops her ass and confronts her, while his tone is stripped of its usual sarcasm. Hajime calls out her constant apologies, her forced smiles, and her downcast gaze. He compares her to Shay, who despite her own weaknesses, never let herself be crushed by feelings of inferiority. Then comes the verbal strike Kaori needs to hear. Hajime meets her eyes and states with absolute conviction that he loves Yue, and that will never change. If being near him only causes her pain and feelings of defeat, then she shouldn't be here. He tells Kaori bluntly that, in her current state, she is holding him back. His words are harsh, not out of malice but as a challenge, a demand for her to find her own reason to fight this battle or walk away. The scene then cuts to the gilded halls of the Highly Kingdom. Aiko-sensei is approached by a serene-looking nun, who informs her that she is to be escorted to the Divine Mountain. Aiko politely refuses, saying she has to pleasure herself with her brand new but the nun calmly approaches her and attempts to use a powerful charm spell. Fortunately, Aiko is protected by her divine status as the fertility goddess and unknowingly resists the attack. From behind a nearby pillar, a horrified Princess Liliana witnesses the entire scene, now the lone spectator to the dark conspiracy consuming her kingdom from within. In the eerie silence of the underwater ship graveyard, Hajime's words hang in the air, heavy and sharp as shrapnel. He explains his reasoning with brutal honesty. He allowed Kaori to come because, like Shay, she seemed to possess an unshakable conviction that this was the right path for her. Kaori knew he was banging another chick, yet she chose to follow anyway. Hajime respected that resolve. But now, that conviction has been replaced by a constant stream of apologies and a shadow of inferiority. Hajime gives her an ultimatum, his voice firm but not entirely unkind. Kaori needs to reevaluate why she's here. If she decides this path is too painful, he will personally escort her back to the safety of Shizuku's side. Before she can answer, the spectral world around them shifts once more. The grim graveyard dissolves, and they find themselves standing on the deck of a magnificent, fully restored passenger ship, bathed in the warm glow of lanterns. They are surrounded by elegantly dressed humans, beastmen, and even demons, all mingling and laughing together at a lavish Diddy-themed party. A king steps onto a grand stage, his voice booming with joy as he celebrates the one-year anniversary of the peace treaty that ended a brutal, prolonged war. The sight is so genuinely hopeful, so full of promise, that it gives Kaori a moment of pause. Perhaps their assumption about the labyrinth's dark theme was wrong. However, Kaori's hope is violently shattered. The king's benevolent expression twists into a mask of pure, fanatical hatred. He mocks the peace treaty as the pinnacle of foolishness, spitting on the very idea of sharing a toast with filthy animals and heathens. He declares that the evil races, forsaken by the one true god named Eshet, will no longer be tolerated. With a chilling cry, the king announces that there can be no peace without total annihilation, and he is delighted to have gathered all the foreign dignitaries in one place for a grand slaughter like American senators in Israel. On his command, his knights draw their swords, and the joyous celebration descends into a horrific massacre, a gruesome play of betrayal and fanaticism that forces Kaori to watch in stunned silence. When the illusion finally fades, leaving them once again in the dark, silent ruins, Kaori is visibly shaken from the she has in her pocket. They surmise that the vision was meant to show them the depths of the god Ihit's madness before they explored the ship. As they venture into the vessel's corridors, a new threat emerges. A web of razor-sharp strings Mate realizes, a physical trap that separates them. Hajime is ambushed by more spectral soldiers, while Kaori is left alone, her heart pounding in the darkness. Suddenly she hears Hajime's voice. He appears before her, and she gently walks towards him, feeling a deep sense of relief washing over her. But as he pulls her close, Hajime's embrace feels wrong. The words are a blaring alarm. Before the imposter can act, a magic-infused bullet rips through its head. Hajime stands above her with a smoking gun in his hand. The creature wearing Kaori's face tries to gather sympathy, but Hajime fires another bullet in her dumb head. Despite this, the creature tries to play her games, but Hajime's expression is like ice. He has seen through the ruse from the start. The entity, an evil spirit possessing Kaori's body, tries to use her as a shield, but Hajime is relentless. He explains that his magic ammunition is designed to only harm the spectral entity, causing it agonizing pain without leaving a single scratch on Kaori's physical form. The spirit threatens to destroy Kaori's soul if he continues, but Hajime calls it a cap. He calmly lays out his plan. Since he can't kill the spirit without harming Kaori, he will simply keep it alive and torture it with every form of pain imaginable, until it begs to be let out of her body. He promises it an eternity of suffering for daring to threaten someone important to him. Terrified by his cold, methodical cruelty, the spirit shrieks and flees Kaori's body, sucking all the fluid that's in her ping-pong. As the real Kaori regains consciousness, she looks up at him, her eyes clear and filled with a newfound resolve. She then gives Hajime a filthy, slimy kiss, and gently confesses her love for him. Hajime is caught off guard by this, but Kaori acknowledges that she will always be jealous of Yue, that she will feel pain and inferiority, but she now knows with absolute certainty that backing down here would be a far greater regret than any pain she might feel by his side. Her best, truest path is to stay with him like an absolute loser simp. Hearing the unshakable conviction back in her voice, Hajime simply accepts her deal and claims that her trial is over, and that she can stay in his team. With her resolve forged anew, they walk through the corridor and find the heart of the labyrinth. They come up to the surface, but the place is eerily calm and empty. Soon enough, they reunite with Yue, Shay, and Tio, who manage to fight their way through their own set of trials. Kaori, no longer hesitant, immediately shares the story of how she made Hajime hard earlier in front of everyone. A bold declaration that she is done being passive. She openly accepts Yue's challenge, ready to fight for her place. With the group whole again, they discover the final prize, the ancient magic of restoration, and the labyrinth's proof of conquest. But their victory is short-lived. The moment they claim their prize, the entire structure begins to collapse, and they are forcibly ejected back into the open ocean, directly into the path of the colossal, unkillable jelly monster they now call the Devourer. The beast is even more formidable in its natural habitat, controlling the sea itself. As Hajime formulates a desperate 3-minute plan to superheat the water and vaporize the creature faster than it can regenerate, they are saved by an unexpected ally, Lipin-san. a Chad-like fish who is a friend of Mew's mother from Risen, appears with a school of powerful fish-like creatures, buying them the precious time they need. With a thunderous roar, Hajime unleashes his attack, and the devourer is finally annihilated in a massive underwater explosion. The scene shifts back to the Healy Kingdom, where 3 days have passed. Shizuku and the heroes' party are growing increasingly worried. Aiko-sensei went to the Divine Mountain and has not returned. Princess Liliana is also missing, as are Aiko's personal guards. Commander Meld confirms their fears, revealing he's been conducting his own secret investigation into the strange disappearances. The atmosphere in the capital is thicker than Kim Kardashian's backside, with paranoia and the stench of conspiracy. The final horrifying truth is then revealed. Deep within the Divine Mountain, Aiko awakens in a cold stone prison cell. The sinister nun stands outside her bars with a chilling smile on her face. She explains that Aiko's presence has become an inconvenience to her lord's plans. Her student Hajime's sausage is growing far too quickly, conquering labyrinths at an unnatural rate. To prevent any further interference from the boy's devoted teacher, their god has decided it's time for her to be temporarily removed from the game board. A few days later, the sun streams into a peaceful bedroom in Risen, where a small figure is diligently trying to wake up her father. Miyu repeatedly slaps Hajime's face with her tiny hands, cheerfully announcing the start of a new day. He wakes up with a smile on his face, which makes the little girl incredibly happy. Just then, Mayu, with the unfiltered curiosity of a child, asks Hajime why he is always naked every time Yue is in his bed. The query sends a jolt through both of them, but Yue quickly defuses the landmine, claiming it's hot during the summer. Furthermore, the little girl curiously asks him why he has a boner under the blanket, and he desperately tries to explain the biological differences between boys and girls, a conversation that leaves Mayu more confused. Thankfully, their awkward morning routine is mercifully interrupted by Kaori, who calls them to a grand breakfast feast, saving them from any further uncomfortable questions. At the breakfast table surrounded by his lively companions, Hajime reflects on their situation. It's been 6 days since they returned from the sunken ruins of Melusine. He stayed in this idyllic town far too long, and he knows they need to move on. But the thought of telling Mew is a lead weight in his stomach. He imagines her tears, her pleas for him to stay, and the thought paralyzes him. His internal struggle is so palpable that his entire harem can feel it. Later, everyone goes by the ocean side for a dip, but Hajime is nowhere to be seen. He is in a distant port working on his equipment, while also thinking about leaving Mew alone. Meanwhile, the little girl dives headfirst into the water, and Shay waits for her outside. But this rabbit girl has no idea that Mew cleverly took out her bra, leaving them fangs hanging like traffic lights. On the other hand, Remiya, Mayu's sharp and perceptive mother, approaches Hajime from the water. She thanks him not just for saving her daughter, but for caring so deeply about her happiness. Remiya reveals that everyone, including Mayu herself, knows he has to leave soon. She explains that Mayu is old enough to understand that she can't keep him here forever, which is why she's never once asked him not to go. The revelation hits Hajime hard. He can't let a child be more mature and considerate than him. However, Hajime cannot understand why this Remiya chick is still talking to him. She then approaches Hajime's nuts and offers to rub his sausage with her mouth. Just as he is about to accept the offer, Yue, Tio, and Kaori arrive at the scene to make fun of this disgusting woman. When Tio makes the same sausage joke, Hajime knocks her out of the park like a cricket ball. Just then, Mew comes out of the water with Shay's bra and gives it to Hajime. All the girls get jealous, so they all offer to take off their bras for the Chad minister. That evening, as Hajime and Mew sit by the docks, he finally tells her about leaving. He explains that he and the others will be leaving tomorrow morning. Mew's expression is sad, but there are no tears. She asks if he will still be her papa, even when they're apart. He assures her he will, if that's what she wants. With a small, brave smile, Mew wishes him a safe trip, but asks Hajime to pick her up once he defeats all the monsters in this godforsaken planet. Hajime tries to gently explain that he's going to a place that is impossibly far away, but Mew's faith is absolute. If her papa can go there, so can she, because she's his daughter. Moved beyond words by her unwavering trust, Hajime makes a new solemn promise. He tells her to wait for him. Once his journey is over, he will come back for her, and he will take her with him to his hometown in Japan. The promise of seeing the incredible Jack-in-the-Box world where her papa grew up fills Miyu with an explosive joy, chasing away all the sadness. That evening, all the girls sit down to talk to Hajime about Miyu's future in this stupid village. They talk about how Hajime is going to come back to meet Miyu, as she has officially become his unofficial daughter. Just then, Miyu arrives like a freaking Labrador and jumps on his arms like there's nothing else she has to do in her freaking life. The next morning, as the group prepares to depart on their submarine, Miyu gives each of them a small handmade amulet for good luck. She stands on the pier with her mother, waving goodbye, not with tears, but with a bright, hopeful smile, already looking forward to the day her papa will return for her. With this, Hajime and his chicks leave the port, while the little girl waves them goodbye as if they're going to see her from the submarine. Stupid girl. The scene shifts violently from the peaceful coastal town to the cold, paranoid halls of the Hila Kingdom's royal palace. A sinister phenomenon, which the knights have dubbed the Void, is spreading through the castle. A mysterious malaise that drains soldiers of their morale and energy, leaving them lethargic and apathetic. Commander Meld, the stalwart leader of the knights, is deeply troubled. However, he claims that the king is far from being affected. Instead, he has grown more energized and fanatical, ranting about delivering God's punishment to the demons. Meld suspects a magical attack of demonic origin, but can't fathom how they could have infiltrated the palace so deeply. In a moment of quiet desperation, he pens a letter, a contingency plan to be delivered to Duke Zengen of Ankaji and to Hajime, should the worst come to pass. His solitude is interrupted by a knock on the door. It's Daisuke Hayama, claiming he needs to discuss something important in private, away from his classmates. Meldiver, the caring commander, invites him in, ready to listen to his daddy issues. As they sit down, Daisuke seems weirdly anxious, but Meld does not give it much thought. Just then, another knock comes on the door. It turns out to be Jose, one of Meld's lieutenants, with an urgent report. Daisuke politely offers to wait outside, a gesture that seems perfectly normal. But the moment Meld opens the door, Jose charges at his master. Meld manages to dodge the attacks for some time, but it seems like Jose has been completely brainwashed by the Void. Meld, a veteran of countless battles, tries to incapacitate his brainwashed subordinate without unaliving him. The two are locked in a desperate struggle, and Meld orders Daisuke to run for his life. But while he is creating an opening for the boy's escape, a searing pain erupts from his side. Meld looks down in disbelief to see the cold, hard steel of a sword piercing through his tum-tum. Daisuke, the boy he was trying to protect, has just delivered the fatal blow. In a dark corridor of the royal palace, Shizuku and the girls of the hero's party are restless, unable to sleep. A deep, unsettling feeling hangs in the air. Their search for Aiko-sensei's missing guards has turned up nothing, and their faith in Commander Meld's ability to solve the mystery is their only comfort. But a knot of dread is tightening in their pants. They can feel that something is dripping down their legs. Their instincts are brutally correct. In Meld's study, the scene is one of chaos and betrayal. The commander is reeling, not from the physical pain of Daisuke's sword in his side, but from the sheer shock of the act. He can't comprehend how the boy he was trying to save could turn on him. Before Daisuke can deliver a second fatal blow, Meld reacts with the instincts of a seasoned warrior. He unleashes a powerful impact spell, Blitzhammer, that blasts both himself and Daisuke apart like a classic Taliban fighter, giving him a precious few seconds of breathing room. But unfortunately, his escape is immediately cut off by his own knights, their eyes glazed over, their blades now pointed at him. He is now surrounded by his brainwashed subordinates. As Meld fights a desperate defensive battle against his own men, he decides to retreat and jumps out of the window. However, he gets slightly lonely, as no one appears to attack him. Just then, a new figure enters the fray. A powerful masked woman who moves with inhuman speed and grace is seen levitating in the sky. She claims that Meld's death is what Lord Ihit wants. Without further ado, she uses brutal magic and disintegrates Meld into tiny atoms. On the other hand, Daisuke, having recovered from his tiny injuries, gloats over the dying commander, his face a mask of cruel satisfaction. He seems to have been talking to a mysterious woman about the conspiracy surrounding the castle for the past few months. He finally understands that the conspiracy runs deeper than the 9/11 conspiracy, and that eliminating Commander Meld was just the first major obstacle to be removed. The scene shifts to the bright open road where Hajime's vehicle cruises along, a stark contrast to the dark intrigue of the capital. The mood inside the vehicle is light, but just then they notice some petty little trouble ahead. A caravan is under attack by a large group of Republican Party voters, while a bunch of stupid guards struggle to break the defensive barrier cast by someone from the magic castle. Since the magic barrier cannot hold up for long, it starts disintegrating. Just then, Kaori pleads with him to help, her healer's instincts taking over. Hajime agrees, but on his own terms. He floors the accelerator, intending to eliminate all the stupid bandits in one go. He then clarifies that if he is to intervene, he will show no mercy and sleep with at least one bandit chick. Kaori is reluctant, but she agrees to his stupid idea. The vehicle smashes through the bandit lines with the force of a freight train, sending bodies flying. While Hajime unleashes a merciless hail of gunfire from the vehicle's turrets, cutting down the remaining bandits with brutal efficiency, Kaori leaps out to heal the wounded guards. In the aftermath, a familiar voice calls out to her. It's Princess Liliana, who was traveling with the caravan. She is overjoyed to see Kaori, but when she turns to thank their savior, Hajime gives her a blank, confused stare and asks who the heck she is. He genuinely has no memory of this little princess chick, making her feel slightly inferior. The question is a blow that wounds the princess more than any sword could. Kaori frantically reminds him of Liliana's identity, scolding him for his terrible memory, while Liliana tries to hold back tears. Once inside the vehicle, Liliana recounts the harrowing tale of why she is so far from the capital. She explains the king's growing fanaticism, the strange void disease affecting the knights, and the official branding of Hajime as a heretic. The final straw, she reveals, was witnessing a nun from the Divine Mountain kidnap Aiko-sensei. Fearing the entire castle was under surveillance by the Donald Trump administration, and with no one left to trust, she fled alone, hoping to find Hajime and Kaori. Hearing this, Hajime's expression hardens harder than his sausage. He makes it clear he has no interest in saving the kingdom. But Aiko is another matter. He feels a degree of responsibility for her plight, as his actions are what put her in the church's crosshairs. With a vicious glint in his eye, he declares that their next destination is the Divine Mountain. He'll rescue his teacher, and if the masterminds behind this conspiracy get in his way, he'll simply have to crush their backsides as well. Later, high up on the Divine Mountain, Aiko sits alone in a cold, dark prison cell, her magic sealed by a restraining bracelet. She mulls over the term irregular, a word the nun used to describe the person who was disrupting her lord's plans. The only person she can think of who fits that description is Hajime. Suddenly, she hears his voice, casual and calm, as if he just dropped by for a visit. Hajime then appears in her cell, having bypassed all of the labyrinth's traps and guards with ease. He begins working on the complex lock of her magic sealing bracelet, and Aiko's biological cave is so dry that she momentarily mistakes his actions for some penetration ceremony. Hajime quickly clarifies his intentions, and Aiko thanks him with a tear rolling down her cheek. She finally has a chance to properly thank him for saving her life before, and to apologize for making him pull the trigger on their brainwashed classmate. He grabs her hand like a PDF file and accepts her gratitude, but flatly rejects her apology, stating that he only ever does what he wants to do. Just as Hajime frees her, a deafening alarm blares through the mountain. The demons have launched a full-scale invasion of the Highly Kingdom. As Aiko panics, Hajime tells her to regroup with Amanogawa and the others while he handles his own business here. But their escape is cut short. A figure descends from the ceiling, landing before them with an unnerving, silent grace. It is a woman with silver hair and emotionless golden eyes, dressed in pristine white robes like Mahatma Gandhi. The air around her hums with an immense oppressive power. She introduces herself as Noint, a humble apostle of God. Her mission, she states with chilling impassivity, is to remove the unneeded pieces from her god's game board. The air in the divine mountain crackles with immense power. Noint, the self-proclaimed apostle of God, floats before Hajime. Hajime, holding the bewildered Aiko-sensei by her ass, dismisses her as nothing more than God's puppet. Miles away, at the base of the mountain, a sudden violent tremor shatters the glasses in the night as the great barrier surrounding the Highly Kingdom is about to collapse. Inside the capital, Shizuku and the hero's party are thrown into chaos. As the chicks flutter around like Kylie Jenner's fake eyelashes, confused and unsure of what to do, Tio's voice crackles through a communication artifact. She hurriedly paints a grim picture to the girls. A massive army of demons and monsters has appeared a kilometer south of the city, led by the same white dragon that attacked them in the volcano. It was Freyd's dragon that had just broken the capital's defenses. Realizing they are under a full-scale invasion, the group prepares to mobilize to the best of their abilities. But Hajime's harem has a different priority. Yue and Shay, their faces masks of cold fury, declare their intentions. The demon riding that white dragon had hurt Hajime, so their course of action is clear. They will not join the city's defense. They will head directly for the Divine Mountain to provide backup to their penetration daddy. They will pummel Freed until he cries, and then they will keep pummeling him. Leaving a stunned Princess Liliana in Kaori's care, the two of them blast off toward the mountain, a whirlwind of vengeful rage. Meanwhile, high above, Hajime and Noint are locked in a silent standoff. He knows he can't fight a battle of this magnitude while protecting his teacher's ass. He sends a telepathic message to Tio, ordering her to his position to extract Aiko. Just as she leaves, the building in which Shay and Yue are standing is hit with a powerful force, but they manage to evade the attack just in time. General Freyd makes his appearance along with his commander, Mikhail, and they engage in battle. The battlefield expands as the demon army intercepts Yue and Shay. Freyd Bagua, riding his white dragon, orders his Black Eagle squadron to engage Shay while he personally confronts the blonde-haired chick. He is burning with a singular purpose, revenge. Mikhail screams at Shay, demanding to know if she remembers the red-haired demon she murdered in the Great Orcus Labyrinth. He reveals that the woman Ketleia was his beloved wife who used to give him head every night. Shay, however, is completely unmoved. She coolly points out that Ketleia might have a good blow game, but Hajime offered to spare her if she retreated. She has no interest in hearing the sob story of an enemy she killed. Enraged by her callousness, Hajime orders his men to attack from all angles. The fight is a brutal display of tactics versus raw power. Mikhail's mages try to pin Shay down with ranged attacks, but she is a force of nature, her movements a whirlwind of destruction. She leaps, dodges, and smashes through their ranks, her warhammer crushing everything in its path. One of Mikhail's lieutenants manages to land a hit with a stone needle, but Shay simply shrugs it off, her body glowing with a self-styled quasi-restoration magic. With a wild grin, Shay unleashes a storm of lightning from the sky, decimating the squadron and leaving Mikhail to watch in horror as this monster tears through his elite forces. Simultaneously, Yue faces off against a squadron of mages led by Freed, who are wielding an artifact that nullifies magic. But Yue is no ordinary caster. She summons 5 colossal dragons made of pure magic, the 5 heavenly dragons, which overwhelm the mages with their sheer scale and power. As they fall back, Freed himself unleashes his most powerful spell, an Age of Gods magic called Void Fissure. The attack tears a hole in his underwear, but the energy is extremely smelly and destructive. However, Yue counters with a terrifyingly personal attack. Using a revival reversal spell, she forces the deep, grievous wound that Hajime had inflicted on Freed in the volcano to reopen, causing him to scream in agony, realizing he cannot win, and with his forces being routed, Freed is forced into a humiliating retreat like an absolute wussy. On the other hand, Hajime can feel Noint's power, a chillingly precise precognition that seems to anticipate his every move. But Noint is equally wary of him. She cannot fathom how he survived the volcanic labyrinth, and his terrifying will to live makes him a dangerously unpredictable foe. She decides to eliminate Aiko first, but her attack is met with ejaculating bullets from Hajime. With a burst of speed, Noint closes the distance, her sword a blur of silver light, and the two are locked in a deadly high-speed duel. The Battle of Divine Mountain is intense as they clash. Hajime's fight with Noint is a desperate struggle. Her precognitive abilities and flawless swordsmanship make her nearly untouchable. Worse, the very air of the mountain is imbued with a magic weakening field, an ancient defense system set up by the church. Hajime realizes this is the enemy's home ground. He tries to reason with Noint, pointing out the demon invasion below and questioning why she's wasting time on him when the kingdom is about to fall. Her answer is chilling. If the kingdom falls, then that is simply the conclusion of this era. Humans are nothing more than pawns for her god Idiot. To stave off boredom and occasional butt stuff, Hajime presses her, confirming what he learned from the Liberators. Ehit is a bored, malevolent god playing both sides. He offers a simple solution. If he's such an anomaly, why not just send him back to his original world? Noint flatly denies the request. Her lord, she explains, wishes for his death. Not just any death, but a specific entertaining one in front of a crowd while talking about gun violence. He is to overcome every obstacle, gain immense power, and gather strong allies, only to die tragically, partway toward his goal, drowning in as much despair and regret as possible. This, she concludes, is the best entertainment he can offer. Hajime's face hardens into a mask of pure disgust and tells her to suck his ding-dong with all due respect. Just as their battle is about to escalate, a massive black form blots out the moon. Tio arrives in her full dragon form, swooping down to grab Aiko. As she flies away with the teacher, Aiko screams for Hajime to be safe. With his precious cargo now secure, Hajime is finally free to fight without restraint. He turns to face Noint, his demonic red eye glowing with murderous intent, as the real battle is about to begin. As Tio streaks through the sky in her dragon form, Aiko-sensei, clutched safely in her grasp, refuses to be a dead weight like Jake Paul. Tio tells her that after dropping her off in a safe location, she has to return to support Hajime in his battle. However, Aiko wants to do more than just wait like a penetration worker on the side of Las Vegas streets. With a mask of fierce determination, she declares that even if she lacks combat experience, her raw magical power is on par with the hero. She can't just run away while her student fights. In a shocking display of resolve, Aiko bites her own thumb, drawing blood, and begins to weave a complex spell on the back of her hand. Tio, recognizing the unshakable will in her eyes, agrees to let her help if she insists. Now, as they cruise through the sky, the girls are determined to demolish their enemies together. Back on the Divine Mountain, the horrifying battle between Hajime and Noint is a maelstrom of steel and magic. Noint is a perfect weapon, her movements flawless, her precognitive abilities allowing her to counter Hajime's every move. Hajime, pushed onto the defensive, is forced to use a risky maneuver, creating a localized explosion to create distance. For hours, he is unable to even touch her with his weapons. While Noint stays calm, Hajime notices that her magic power is not decreasing at all. However, he then charges at her with a volley of armor-piercing bullets, a desperate gambit to find a chink in her perfect defense. To his surprise, one of the bullets finds its mark, a light grazing wound that is nonetheless a victory. It's the first time he's managed to even touch her. The small victory gives him an opening. He unleashes a barrage of missiles, but Noint effortlessly slices through them, her 13 holy swords moving better than Hajime's magical sausage. As she closes in for the kill, Hajime reveals his true trap. The bullets he fired earlier were not just bullets. They were remote-controlled drones. Now positioned right behind her divine fart machine, they unleash a concentrated beam of energy, a pincer attack that Noint cannot fully evade. The blast slams into her like a bazooka, shattering her holy raiment and sending her crashing to the ground. For a moment, it seems Hajime has won. But as the smoke clears, Noint rises like an undertaker, her body battered but her golden eyes as empty and emotionless as ever. Just as their fight is about to resume, a cataclysmic explosion rocks the entire mountain. A wave of superheated air, imbued with draconic power, washes over them. It turns out that Tio and Aiko have arrived at the scene, and their entrance is anything but subtle. Aiko, it turns out, used her unique farmer skill called fermentation acceleration on the ambient air, creating a massive, invisible cloud of her disgusting fart. Tio then ignites it with her dragon's breath. The resulting explosion not only vaporizes the church's defensive barrier, but also obliterates the entire holy sanctum and all the paladins within it. The sheer, unorthodox, destructive power of a farmer and a dragon working in tandem leaves even Hajime momentarily stunned. Aiko, horrified by her own devastating success, can only stammer, insisting she didn't know it she was suffering from gastritis. However, their reunion is interrupted by the appearance of a silent Andrew Tate-type figure who asks them to follow his lead. The bald man leads them to a hidden chamber in Romania, the true heart of the Divine Mountain Labyrinth. Here, they find the final testament of the Liberator, Laus Barn. His writings reveal the labyrinth's concept. It wasn't a test of strength, but of will. To conquer it, a challenger had to have already cleared 2 other labyrinths, possess no faith in the god Ehit, and have defeated a divine power, all conditions Hajime had unknowingly met the moment he defeated Noint. With the final proof of conquest and the ancient magic of spirit magic secured, their quest is complete. But there's no time to celebrate this stupid little victory. The demon invasion of the capital is in full swing, and they must hurry back to save their friends and family. The scene rewinds a few hours, to the moment the Great Barrier shattered. Shizuku and Amanogawa are woken by the sound. Amanogawa, ever impulsive, wants to charge into battle immediately, but Shizuku, being the careful strategist, insists they regroup with Commander Meld first. Her argument is bolstered when their maid Nia appears, reporting that the invading demon army numbers over 100,000. A frontal assault would be a stupid move, so they gather the rest of the heroes' party and make their way to the command center, not knowing that Meld's body is now being eaten by holy maggots. To their surprise, they are greeted not by Meld but by his lieutenant Jose, who kinda looks like Ellen DeGenerate. He claims the commander is occupied with important matters and directs them to the center of the hall, declaring that the hero Amanogawa is their beacon of hope. Shizuku's suspicion skyrockets because she has a gut feeling that something is terribly wrong. As Jose holds up a crystal ball, supposedly to signal the start of their counterattack, the room is flooded with a blinding, disorienting light. It turns out to be a trap, and a volley of magic ceiling chains erupts from the floor, ensnaring Amanogawa and the others, leaving them powerless. Only Shizuku, whose senses are on high alert, manages to evade the initial attack. Royal Knights, their eyes glowing with a malevolent dark light, surround them. They are nothing more than brainwashed puppets like Taylor Swift fans. As Shizuku prepares to fight, Nia, the terrified maid, cries out for help. Shizuku rushes to her side, offering protection. But as she gets close, Nia's expression of fear morphs into a cold, empty stare. With a swift, fluid motion, she draws a hidden blade and plunges it into Shizuku's side. The betrayal is so sudden that Shizuku can only look down at the wound in stunned disbelief. From the shadows, a slow, mocking clap echoes through the hall. Eri Nakamura, their sweet, cheerful classmate, emerges with a sadistic, gleeful smile plastered on her face. She applauds Nia for her performance, revealing that she had only just prepared the maid for this final devastating act. The truth dawns on Shizuku with horrifying clarity. Eri, the girl they all trusted, is the traitor, the mastermind who has been pulling the strings all along, turning their friends and allies into mindless puppets for her own twisted amusement. The throne room is a scene of utter despair. The heroes are chained and powerless, Shizuku bleeding on the floor, while everyone is forced to watch Eri Nakamura, their former friend, walk through the room like Hillary Clinton after 3 glasses of wine. She approaches the restrained Amanogawa, her eyes glowing with a sick, obsessive adoration. She fastens a magic ceiling collar around his neck and in a grotesque display of ownership, gives him a deep possessive kiss with saliva dripping like a Dalmatian. Eri then turns to a horrified Shizuku and explains her motivations with chilling glee. She has always wanted Amanogawa, and to have him all to herself, she needed to take out the trash, all the friends and comrades who surrounded him. Eri is grateful they were all transported to this world, where eliminating people is so much easier than in Japan. Her chilling confession continues as she reveals the true nature of their brainwashed allies. They aren't just controlled, they are dead. Using her unique spirit-binding necromancy, she can preserve the memories and speech patterns of the recently deceased, creating perfect, loyal puppets. Her plan is to eliminate them all and turn them into her personal collection of dolls, with Amanogawa as the crown jewel, a prince who will only look at her, only speak words she wants to hear. As the heroes scream in horror, she puts her plan into action. Eri orders the brainwashed knight, Ryaichi, to be executed. As he falls down like a sack of onions, she casts her spell, and his corpse rises, now another one of her mindless toys. Eri then turns her cruel attention to Suzu, Shizuku's other best friend. She thanks Suzu for being such a useful, clueless pawn, explaining that being Suzu's best friend was the perfect cover to get close to Amanogawa. The revelation shatters Suzu, leaving her in a catatonic state of shock. With her pawns disposed of, Eri focuses on her main target. She reveals to Shizuku her deepest, most revolting fantasy, to reanimate Shizuku as a puppet and force her to diddle Kaori's ping pong, just to see the look on Kaori's face when she is pleasured by her own best friend. At that moment, she raises her sword for the final blow, but just as it descends, a brilliant barrier of light erupts around Shizuku. Kaori has arrived, along with Princess Liliana, her face a mask of righteous fury, but their desperate intervention is immediately complicated. Daisuke, his arm regenerating from a grievous wound, appears behind them. With a triumphant, insane cry of, "I finally got her," he lunges past the princess and plunges his sword deep into Kaori's chest. The entire room freezes. In a few seconds, Kaori collapses with a look of stunned disbelief on her face. As Daisuke looms over her with his mummified, twisted mind, he is convinced that this act has finally won her love over Hajime. As Kaori bleeds out, she uses the last of her strength to cast a final desperate spell, an aether flow that shatters the magic ceiling chains on Amanogawa and the others. Within seconds, the throne room erupts into a chaotic, desperate battle. Amanogawa, Ryutaro, and the others fight with renewed fury, but they are hopelessly outmatched by Eri's army of puppets, which now includes their fallen friends and even the reanimated corpse of Commander Meld. Amanogawa, forced to fight his former mentor, is overwhelmed by guilt and hesitation, allowing Eri to land a poisoned kiss on him, paralyzing him completely. Just as all hope seems lost, the ceiling of the throne room explodes inwards. Hajime Nagumo has arrived, and he is not alone. Descending from the sky are Tio and Aiko-sensei, with their faces looking like Viking warriors. Hajime takes in the scene in a single, cold glance. The heroes defeated, Shizuku wounded, and Kaori lying dead on the floor. A wave of silent, apocalyptic rage emanates from him, so palpable it freezes the entire room. On the other hand, Daisuke, seeing his rival, immediately tries to use Kaori's corpse as a bargaining chip, off-airing to let Hajime have her if he helps them. Hajime's response is a single, contemptuous bullet that blows Daisuke's hand clean off. As Eri uses her mindless puppets on him, Hajime moves with a terrifying, inhuman speed. He effortlessly dodges, weaves, and kills, each movement with a blur of brutal efficiency. He slaughters the reanimated Commander Meld and Ryaichi without a moment's hesitation, their bodies disintegrating under his power. Then Hajime tells Shizuku and the others to get down before unleashing a storm of gunfire from his pistols. The bullets ricochet around the room with impossible precision, wiping out every single one of Eri's puppets in a matter of seconds. Now he stands before a terrified Eri with her gun pointed at her dumb Japanese head. But before he can pull the trigger, Daisuke, consumed by a mad rage, attacks him from behind. Hajime doesn't even turn. He backhands Daisuke with his prosthetic arm. The blow is so powerful that it shatters his bones and sends him flying through a wall and out of the palace, where he plummets into the horde of monsters below. With the immediate threats neutralized, Hajime turns his attention to the true crisis. Tio confirms that Kaori's spirit is still tethered to her body, but they are running out of time. At that moment, Freed Bagua appears at the shattered entrance to the throne room, flanked by his demon army. He tries to use the surviving heroes as hostages, but Hajime is in no mood for negotiation. He coldly states that he has no alliance with the kingdom or the heroes, as their fate is not his concern. He then gives Freed a simple ultimatum: get out of his sight, or he and his entire 100,000-strong army will be vaporized like Palestinian kids. To punctuate his threat, he summons a massive orbiting satellite cannon, its targeting laser painting a crimson dot on Freed's forehead. Humbled and utterly terrified by this unknown power, Freed retreats once again, vowing vengeance in the future. With the battle over, the true emotional toll sets in. Shizuku, her body and spirit broken, can only stare at Kaori's lifeless form. Hajime orders his companions to action. Shay is to take care of Kaori's body, while Tio, Yue, and Aiko-sensei are to prepare for a desperate high-level ritual at the top of the Divine Mountain. He then turns to the devastated Shizuku, his voice softer than she has ever heard it. He tells her to hold on, to believe in them. He looks her directly in the eye and makes a solemn, unbreakable promise. You'll see Kaori again and fondle his balls soon. In the quiet aftermath of the devastating invasion, Princess Liliana meticulously documents the truth of the attack. Her report details how Iri Nakamura, their traitorous classmate, had orchestrated the entire affair, forming an unholy alliance with the demons. Using her twisted necromancy, she had reanimated the corpse of the demon general Ketleia from the Orcus Labyrinth, using it as a grim messenger to establish contact. In exchange for granting the demons access to the capital, she secured her own freedom and that of her obsession, Amanagawa. The report also notes the loss of life among the summoned students: Daisuke Hiyama, Reiichi Kondo, and, most tragically, Kaori Shirasaki. On the peak of the Divine Mountain, the atmosphere is heavy with grief and a desire for deep penetration. Hajime finds Aiko-sensei sitting alone with a hollow look in her eyes. He tells Aiko that she doesn't have to force a smile. He knows she's carrying the weight of her students' deaths, especially those he was forced to exterminate. Aiko admits that while she can never forgive what Daisuke did, she had hoped he could live to atone for his sins, but she also understands Hajime's rage. Aiko confesses her own guilt over the destruction of the Holy Church, acknowledging that she willingly participated in an act that she knew could unalive everyone inside. However, she doesn't regret her choice, as it was necessary to help him and protect her students. But the weight of it is immense. Hajime, in a rare moment of vulnerability, makes a selfish request. He asks her to keep feeling that guilt, to carry that weight, because those human emotions are something he can no longer truly feel himself. He tells Arata that she can be his example of what it means to be human, a beacon to guide him back to a normal life when he finally returns to Japan. But he adds a crucial caveat: if the pain ever becomes too much to bear, she can cry on his ding-dong. The unexpected kindness breaks through her composure, and she finally lets the tears fall, leaning on her student for support. 5 days later, the heroes stand on a cliff overlooking the healing capital. Shizuku stares at the sky, her expression a mixture of hope and dread. Amanagawa, still grappling with his own failures, expresses his distrust of Hajime, almost hoping he won't return. But just as he speaks, a familiar dark shape descends from the clouds. It's Hajime, but he is alone. As he lands, Shizuku's first and only question is a breathless, desperate, "Where's Kaori?" Hajime cryptically tells her that Kaori will be here any moment, but she looks a little different, and that it's absolutely not his fault. Before Shizuku can process this bizarre warning, a voice calls out from above. A figure in pristine white armor, with striking silver hair and piercing golden eyes, leaps from a hovering platform and lands gracefully before them. It's the face of Noint, the apostle of God, but the voice that comes out is unmistakably Kaori's. She joyfully greets a stunned Shizuku, confirming that it is indeed her, alive and well. The two best friends share a tearful, heartfelt reunion, their bond unbroken by death itself. Hajime explains the impossible truth. Using the ancient magic of restoration, they managed to preserve Kaori's soul and transfer it into the repaired body of Noint. Kaori's original body was perfectly healed, but it was Kaori herself who requested the new, more powerful vessel. She wanted to be stronger, to fight alongside him without being a liability. Her original body, he assures them, is safely preserved in a state of frozen animation, ready for her to return to whenever she chooses. Shizuku, though overwhelmed, can only sigh. Her best friend has always had a flair for the dramatic, and this is her grandest gesture yet. She turns to Hajime and his companions and offers them her deepest, most profound gratitude for saving her best friend. Amanagawa confronts Hajime, demanding to know why he never told them the truth about the god Ihit. Hajime scoffs at this, pointing out that they never would have believed him and would have simply branded him a heretic, which they did anyway. Amanagawa, filled with a renewed but misguided sense of purpose, declares his intention to save the world and asks to join Hajime in conquering the remaining labyrinths to gain the power to do so. Shizuku, Suzu, and the others echo his request, each wanting to become strong enough to protect themselves and their friends. Hajime initially refuses, seeing them as nothing but a bother, but as they all plead with him, an idea forms in his mind, a cold, calculating look in his eye. He agrees with a casualness that alarms his own companions. Yue, Shay, and Tio immediately understand his true motive. He isn't taking them on as allies, he's recruiting them as disposable meat shields and bait for the treacherous labyrinths ahead. He sees it as a brutally efficient way to power them up while minimizing the risk to his own party. The evening meal that follows is a chaotic, awkward affair. Yue, Shay, Kaori, and Tio all compete to feed Hajime, much to the discomfort of Shizuku and the others. The scene is interrupted when Tio loudly demands her reward for helping save Aiko-sensei. Her request is, as expected, she wants Hajime to brutalize her rear end with his dark, stiff, thick rod, just as he did when they first met in Season 1. Her blatant invitation sends Aiko-sensei into a panicked frenzy while the rest of the group looks on in stunned silence. Hajime, pushed to his limit, decides to grant her wish, summoning a pile bunker so massive and menacing that even Tio's masochistic desires turn to genuine terror, forcing her to beg her fellow harem members for help. As dawn breaks, Hajime stands alone, looking out at the horizon. Yue joins him, and he speaks of his true goal, the one that keeps him moving forward, to finish this journey quickly and go pick up Mew. The two groups assemble, ready to depart. Hajime's party, now expanded with the reluctant addition of the hero's party and Princess Liliana, sets off for their next destination, the Great Labyrinth in the Eastern Forests. As they begin their new journey, the path ahead is uncertain, fraught with danger, and the looming threat of a mad god. But for the first time, they are all moving forward together, a mismatched, dysfunctional, but undeniably powerful force, ready to challenge their fate and seize their own future. If you want us to cover Season 3 of this anime, comment Juicy Watermelon below. Until then, subscribe, like, and share this video with all your friends.